What's up, everybody? We are back with another Pokemon Wonder. Today, we are in the continuation of connecting to our community in great conversation while extracting the knowledge, the value, and the love for Pokemon. We go from the base of the mountain to the peaks with Terry Lake, aka Terra Bear, today. Many of you know this man through chat and live conversations within Pokemon over the past 3 years. However, like every successful journey in life, there's much more than meets the eye. Terry brings more than 40 years of business, startup, growth, financial management, tax specialty, building a successful family, and now moving smoothly into retirement, all while still maximizing the grind around a plethora of areas in his relaxation time. So sit back, relax, take some notes because the information here could save you decades of mistakes and thousands or more in costs. Now, let's have a great time and welcome Terry Lake to Pokemon Wonder. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the kind words that people have been saying about me. Again, I don't know how I rate to be, on a stage with some of the people you've had on your channel. I mean, you've had all the top people, and I've watched them all, and I enjoy watching those people, and I'm just happy to be part of it.
We're all just people, Terry, no matter who we are and what space it is. And I think one of the things that we're going to see here today, and I think everybody in the chat that will agree or watch this afterwards, after you watch this video today, you will never see Mr. Terry Lake the same way. So stay tuned. It's going to be a blast. And I mean that in the best and the most positive way. So in order to get started, Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into the hobby? And of course, we'll get into the other aspects a bit later.
Well, I pretty much got into it I guess not like how you people got into it. You actually grew up with it. I have children your age, and I remember my first exposure to Pokemon, and it was the movie. I never saw Pokemon before. I took my 2 or 3 oldest kids to see it. We're sitting in the front row, and Pikachu comes on there and says, "Pika, Pika," and
I get the promos.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Squirtle. And it's like, I asked him, I said, "What is this?" And there was a lady sitting behind me with her kid. She says, "You've never seen this before, have you?" I said, "No, ma'am, I haven't." She just shook her head and smiled and sat back. And that was my exposure to it.
Nice.
It's fascinating to me. We watched all the cartoons growing up.
Love it.
My wife worked for Burger King when the cards came out. So we had thousands of those cards around the house. And how I got back into it is I retired about 3 years ago. And I've always been fascinated. Like, I was involved in the card market back in the 80s. I collected ball cards in the 70s. 74, I started collecting them. And as I got out of high school, I moved out of that. But I've always been fascinated by Pokemon cards and the whole thing. Yeah, they're just adorable. You see Pikachu, Snorlax. I mean, they're just cool characters. And I just took an interest in them, and then the boom happened, and everybody's talking about it. So I started buying a couple cards here and there, and before you know it, I got addicted to it and wanted more. And like anything, I take everything to excess, and I had to start trying to make money with them. And
Exactly.
That's how I've ended up where I am now.
Yeah, it's that addiction that turns to, how am I going to get my money back? It's like, what did I just do here? As you're surrounded by hundreds of packs and plastic, you're like, okay, yeah, so I got to figure this out. All right. Well, then one of the things I got to know, I didn't ask you in our pre-call, how did you get the name Terra Bear?
Terra Bear. Well, there's a really nice guy who goes by the name of PK, Pokemon Knowledge. And I started following him before he had a face reveal. And just like this channel, I just like the way he runs his channel. But like anything else, I've had some issues with him about some things he said, the way he frames things, and that's how I got to be who I am. People, think that I'm an adversary, and I'm not. And I just have a tendency to comment on the things that I have objection to instead of saying positive things. So my wife actually told me, she says, "You need to quit being mean to people." And I have, and I don't have any confrontations with him, but I love PK, and I just think he's a great dude. He got a little family he's working with. He had a little newborn, and he started calling me Terra Bear, and I sort of like her.
Well, and I think that's a perfect time to go ahead and squash the quote unquote beef. I saw that and I mentioned it to you. I think it was about 20 replies deep in one of the threads in one of Dan's videos. And you actually said it right in that thread. And the reason you have these conversations and the reason you're actually given that constructive feedback is because you care.
Yeah.
You want them, to maybe see something they don't see, to maybe make an improvement, to do better. It's not because you want to beat anybody down. It's actually because you care. And I think that's the important takeaway. So all the beef with Dan over the years and whoever else may be in their
I love
channels.
Dan, and I don't think he has any issues with me, but people like to see that, and it's nothing there. There's nothing there. I had nothing but great respect for Dan. I mean, the guy's kicking it right now. He's killing it.
He's doing awesome. Yeah,
You know.
I'm super happy for Dan. Well, Terry, I think that explains the Terra Bear. I'm still going to call you Terry if you don't mind, but let's jump into the collecting side for you. It's something that, as we were talking and we're preparing for this, I was wondering, are you actually a collector? And your response was, I'm a collector at heart. So tell us a little bit about your collecting journey. You mentioned it with sports cards. We obviously spoke a little bit about you buying a lot of the Pokemon products that are coming out, but tell us, how are you engaging in the hobby and what are you collecting nowadays?
So I started collecting coins, and believe it or not, when I was 7 years old, I was setting up at flea markets, selling coins, buying and selling coins as a 7-year-old. My dad,
Nice.
he had that. I don't. You either have it or you don't. How you buy something for $1 and sell it for $2. Some people
Right.
have that, and some people don't. Well, I had that early on in life, and that led to ball cards. And I kept up with coins for years, and then how I maintained with cards and got in with cards was coins started having third-party grading, and that was a huge thing. PCGS and NGC came into market, and they started grading coins. And what that did, it took the shadiness out of coin dealers, because when you would go sell a coin to a coin dealer, they would talk it down and undergrade it. But when you would buy that same coin off of a coin dealer, they would overgrade it. So third-party grading took that away. And I saw what that did with the coin market. So when PSA
What year was this?
This was probably 80, 85, 86, 87.
Okay.
That area they came into being. And then they opened up PSA, which is PCGS in the coin market, same company, PSA, 94, 95. And I knew what that was going to do to the ball card market, vintage cards, because I know what it did to the coin market. So I went locally in the Pittsburgh area, because I'm from Pittsburgh, and I started buying up all the high grade vintage cards, the old Sandy Koufaxes, Mickey Mantles, and I sent them off to get graded. And did really well with them, but unfortunately sold them because I was still young. I couldn't tie up $10,000, $20,000 back then, and I had to sell them, so I flipped them. And that's one thing that the Pokemon doesn't talk about, the people in the Pokemon field, is what PSA actually does. And part of what they do isn't just grading it; they authenticate that card.
Right.
And they
to the
make
best
sure
of their ability.
nothing done to that card. Like, we'll take the 1971 Topps Baseball, which is a complete black card. The whole border's black, and it chips easy. Back in the day, people take a black marker and they would cover over that. And that doesn't get past PSA. They see that and they reject that card. But you don't really hear about people, at least I haven't, about altering cards and taking that blue marker, At least I haven't heard that. Maybe it's out there.
It happens a little bit, but they have technology good enough now to detect that. So it's just a waste of people's time. It's a good point, though.
For somebody who really doesn't have not a lot of knowledge in the market, they can feel secure when they buy a card from PSA that it's what it says it is. And we can dispute the grade. I mean, you're paying for someone's opinion, and some people like that opinion, some people don't. And I always say
it just depends on the grade you get.
In the coin business, they say buy the coin, not the plastic. But people collect plastic. They collect grades. They want that PSA 10. They don't care if the card's actually a 9, as long as it says PSA 10. And I just want people to look at that and take a look at that card. And if you're really a collector, you're not worried about the resale value of it. Be a collector and buy the card, not the plastic.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and that's why I do binder collecting. Makes it really easy, real easy. We'll do a couple of comments here because we've seen a slew of things come in and a lot of good stuff. So we
Yeah, a
got
little activity there, huh? I see my boy Max said hi. Hey, Maxie, I'm glad you're watching. I love you.
All right, we got. Let's scroll down. We got Terry the goat from Ponga. Ponga's always there. It's good to see you, Ponga. Dan's gonna catch us in a little bit. He's gonna run late, probably putting the kids to bed, I'm sure. All right, Dan, we'll catch you later. Jahib, good to see you, sir. Good to see you. He was one of our recent winners. Good to see you, Jahib. Let's see. We also got Mr. Walrus here. Good to see you, Mr. Walrus, a pillar in the hobby. Get out of here, Dan. I love it. We also have Brad G. Big fan of Terry here.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, we got a little something for you later, so stay tuned, my man. Don't walk away. You don't want to miss it. E Unit, good to see you. Good to see you as well. Looks like we might have perhaps your daughter here.
I didn't see Chloe. Is that Chloe?
Chloe Lake, yeah.
Yeah, that's my daughter. Hey, Chloe, love you.
Right. Yeah, looking like number one.
I see my boy good. Legion too. Hi, Legion.
Let's see. We'll see where he's at. I don't see it just yet. We got a few others. Lots of love for you, Terry. Everybody's glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
I really appreciate
stuff.
That.
Yeah, really good stuff. Oh, we got Dan finally made it.
What's up, Dan?
He hit it. Yeah. All right. Now he's 2x. He's caught up. Perfect. So we'll jump in. Let's go back to the collecting because you touch on a really important point when we talk about the PSA in the early market. You got to see what that was like in the very beginning of PSA's start into this, and obviously well before Pokemon cards. So how do you see it in terms of PSA's process, the ability, the quality, then versus now? Do you see big differences? Do you treat your approach differently?
I think there's a distinct difference between people who collect Pokemon cards and people who collect sports cards. Big difference in the way people collect. First off, I'd sent many sports cards in and never once got a PSA 10. It seems the sports cards were very tough, but let me tell you,
got it.
No shortage of getting PSA 10s when it comes to Pokemon cards. And I grade the same way. I see people, they'll look at a card. What do you think? A 9 or 10? Well, if you don't think it's a 10, don't send it in because what's going to happen? It's going to come to a 9. You're going to be mad and you just wasted $17. So it's better not to send that in, in my opinion. And again, all of this is just my ramblings and what I've done and what works for me. But yeah, I think that there's nothing but upside for graded cards, especially when you're talking about higher end cards, because now, some of those cards, you're talking thousands of dollars of difference between one numeric grade.
Huge. The delta between a 9 and a 10 is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, did I hear you right? That over that entire time of grading with sports cards, you never got 110?
Never got 110. I've got some nice hits on 9s. I bought there used to be a magazine called Sports Collectors Digest, and it was sports cards related. And a guy in the back was from Ontario, Canada. This is back when there was something called long distance on your phone, where you have to call long distance. You had to pay for the phone call. But
I was there. I'm not that young. I'm not that young. I was there, buddy.
But he had advertised that he had a Gem Mint 1968 mantle. And I called him up and talked to him, and he assured me, and if you know anything about the 68, it's a wood grain card. It looks like wood grain finish and very tough to grade a 9. And I bought it off him, remembers $300. And that was one of the big hits. That was a lot of money back then. You have to remember, I'm 35 years old. I got 6 kids. I don't have a lot of disposable income. And but I did know that, again, seeing what happened to the coin market, with high-end coins. And I bought that card, sent it off. It became a 9. I think I sold that card for $800. Now that's a $10,000 plus card.
Wow.
In a matter of 20 years later. And,
talk about good returns.
Yeah. And again, that's my whole history. I've always flipped things too fast. I don't try to get the last dollar out of everything. I move it and take that money and move on to something else.
Yeah, and it's when you're churning like that, it's also keeping you busy, right? But it just depends, because anytime you have any inventory sitting, that's just cash held up.
Yes.
So you're not as liquid as you can be, and that's a big balancing act to kind of have. There's Legion. I found
Hey,
him. He
Bug.
says, hey.
Love
He
you,
says, hey,
Bugaboo.
dude. And apparently Mr. Walrus now thinks he's one of your children. So
Only if I get to claim you on my taxes as a dependent. You let me do that, we'll talk about it.
he will probably let you do that. Probably let you do that. So we need a Terry X and Gary collab tech next. All right. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't
We'll
know about
see.
that, but
We
definitely
got
not.
definitely some love from Terry though, or for
I
Terry, I should
appreciate
say.
that very much.
All right, so let's jump a little bit into your pre-grading process. It's something we didn't talk about, but I want to hear just from you. Like, walk us through the steps. How do you pre-grade, and even tell us a little bit how has that changed? Obviously, sports cars are slightly different. You got obviously sharp edges and other perspectives to take a look at. The quality of the car is a bit different as well, especially depending on the age. But how do you pre-grade across that now and present?
Well, first off, I don't deal in high-end cards. I buy cards. We'll take the Unigabas, for instance. Okay,
Sure.
those are high
Okay.
quality cards. Okay, I look at that card, I open it, and if there's one defect on it, if one white spot, or if it's worse than 60-40 centering on the front, I don't send it in. Because more times than not, you're going to get a 90, or it'll be a flip of a coin, which case you just wasted $17 instead of just moving that card for what you paid for it, or maybe a couple extra dollars.
Do you measure it or do you eyeball it
No,
in terms of the?
yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I do know that they have measuring tools out now, centering tools and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it enough to be able to eyeball that.
And do you use any lighting? Like, do you go deep into it, like with the
Yeah,
magnifying
I
glass or
use
anything?
natural lighting. Like I'm sitting at my
Okay.
table right here, as you can see, it's nighttime out, but the sun comes in. This faces east, so I open the windows up and I use natural lighting for it. I do use a loop. If I
Okay.
think I see something, I use a 10 power loop.
Okay.
And it's really not that hard. I don't play the black label game, but if I would make sure that that's 50-50 centering front and back, because I think
Okay.
if you're spending in anything other than that, you're not going to get that black label. And even if you do have
I
that,
agree.
I don't know if you're going to get it. Now, I know Dan's had some success with a bunch of Unigaba cards with Beckett 10s,
Black
black
label. Yeah.
labels. And
Yeah. So that's not one you play with. You stick with PSA. Is that who you
I
primarily
do.
grade with?
When CGC came out, I started dealing with them because their equivalent in the coin business is NGC, which is the #2 coin grader. So I thought, they got a lot of money behind that business, but they got off to a rocky start with a lot of different problems. And I mean, I like the quick turnaround time, but man, my gosh, I sent cards in that I know were 10s that come back 9s, 9.5s. You just couldn't get a 10 off of them early on. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Early on. Yeah. Okay.
early
Yeah.
on, you couldn't get a 10. So I quit. First off, you don't get the resale value, nor in the coin business. A PCGS coin graded the same as an NGC brings more money than the NGC, just like PSA does with CGC.
Right.
And
Okay.
but still, those two are elite over the third and fourth and fifth grading in comparison. Who are we talking about? I guess there's a place, ASI or something in Europe, or ACG
Yeah.
or ASG or something,
Something
which
like
is
that.
good
Yeah.
for them. Then but I have people that I middle,
AGS. I think it is. Yeah.
yeah, I have people that over in Europe that I middleman to send stuff off for people to PSA, and they take care of me. I don't ask for anything, but they'll send me a free card or something like that, which is
Okay.
appreciative.
Okay. And I think that's an interesting perspective because one of the things I've noticed as I've talked to now Nick with Old School Pokemon, talked to Dan, I've listened to others, now you, a lot of you have the same rooting in the coins and the metals, and then moved into cards. And it's an interesting kind of linkage between the stories. I think that's really neat.
I think it's a collecting bug. People start. It's a
Yeah.
progression of things you collect. We haven't got into my past history yet, but after I had back issues and sold them off my restaurant, I got in, opened a coin store, opened a precious metals
Yep.
business, and I did that for over a decade and finally sold it off. But I mean, coins, I just love coins. You hold up, like children would come to my shop and hand them a gold coin. I'd say, "Do you know where that gold came from?" And they said, "Yeah, from the ground." I said, "Before it came from the ground." And they says, "No." And I said, "That actually comes from an exploding star. That came from a supernova. That's the only way gold and heavy metals are made. They're made in supernovas. Anything heavier than lead on the periodic table it has to be made under pressure that can only be created in a supernova. So that metal found its way from an exploded star from who knows where in the sky to Earth.
I love it.
And I just find that intriguing.
And this is why we're going to talk about his introduction into the physics degree. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that in just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Just hang tight, hang tight. We got a few more dropping in here before we go to the next point. Chef, good to see you, man. Always glad to have you. Let's see. We got Tennis Wolf. Hey, Terry, reminds me of Gary so much.
Yeah, I do a lot of small-time business on Facebook. I know a lot of people follow me on there, and
yeah, there's some comments here. We got one. Ask Terry about Facebook groups.
yeah, that's a tough
Tennis
group
Wolf.
sometimes.
Yeah, Brad G's like Terry B on Facebook, cooking it up. The master of cross posting, apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. We have a few more here. Let me see if I got anything that's worth bringing up. Terry's a real scientist, not like Dan.
Oh, come on, leave Dan alone.
Yeah, Ponga and Mr. Walrus is always gonna poke a little bit. Mr. Walrus here, what's the straw that broke the camel's back that turned Terry against all PokeTubers?
I love all PokeTubers.
Don't worry. We'll crush. I'll crush all of those old myths behind us here. That's what we're gonna do. Talk to us a little bit about the collection, because I think we kind of skipped over it. We jumped to another point. What is it your collection like? I think you mentioned to me you actually collect one of everything that comes out.
I do.
Yeah.
And I don't do it for resale value. There is a method behind that, because you never know exactly what's going to be successful. Like
Right.
I got involved. My first thing I bought was a Shining Fates ETB. That was when I got involved in. I saw it on the shelf. I bought it. Then I started buying
That was it.
one of everything. Every box that came out, every ETB, every 1-pack blister, 3-pack blisters. And I still do that to this day. I buy them to collect them, not because I ever plan on selling them or they're going to make me money. Now, there are cards and products that I do buy with plans on selling, but I actually collect one of everything. I enjoy it. I like looking at it. I have, my kids and my wife buy me plushies. I have a room that I keep all that stuff in. I like Asian products. I like Chinese products in particular. Anything that has great graphics. I don't buy it to make money on it. Again, some things I do, but by and large, I buy things because I just enjoy them.
And so it sounds like you're definitely more of a sealed collector than anything
definitely.
else.
I don't open anything. I just cringe when I see someone open something. It's just, I can never do that.
All right. Well, then one of the things I was also curious about as we kind of were having our pre-call was you mentioned One Piece. So are you venturing out into different TCGs in different areas, or are you still focused primarily on Pokemon?
Pokemon by and large. I got exposed to One Piece from Alex from Nostalgianomics. I heard him talking about it one time. And again, like I told you on our pre-call, I watch a lot of people. Some people I like, some people I don't. But I watch everybody because there may be a piece of information use and learn from. And I've got a lot of good advice from Alex. He turned me on to a couple things that was on the market that I bought in early on. One thing he featured was a guy on eBay was selling Forbidden Light building battle boxes for like $30. And I bought a bunch of those up. Glad I did. But you can learn from anybody. You really can.
Listen. Yeah. You got to listen though. I think you got to be one of the collecticons. Looks like they want you to be out there vending on the table.
You know what, me and my wife. So my back issues that we haven't got into yet sort of prohibit me from traveling. But I have a fantasy that we're going to go to Worlds in Hawaii. I'm really going to try to make that. So, man, I would love to meet you guys. I really would.
That'd be great. That'd
be awesome.
I just got to figure out how to get to Hawaii now. Got to sell some more Pokemon cards.
Yeah, there you go.
So one of the things we did talk about a little bit was the hobby and the growth. We talked about the boom. You kind of made a comment that you don't think there's going to be another big boom again, but yet we talked about the actual growth in the hobby and the numbers. So give me some of your perspective, because obviously you have a lot of engagement in different areas, not just in the comment sections. And I want to hear your opinion on the past, present, and future of the market and how you see things going.
Uh, well, I sort of look at it as two halves. You had pre-boom and post-boom.
Yeah.
You had people who had their cards as collectibles growing up that really didn't have a lot of value. Overnight, turned to be worth a fortune. And I don't mean that literally, but in some cases, a fortune for some people. And I think that's a great thing. But I think that's a one-time growth spurt. I don't think that you're going to see that kind of growth again. What I think you'll see is sustained growth, because as people, one thing nice about Pokemon, it gets you when you're a child. It's interesting to children.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was telling you about McDonald's. You can look at a 4-year-old and they might not know what McDonald's is, but they know that golden arches means they're going to get chicken tenders, and they associate that.
Right.
So they see Pokemon,
Right.
they grow up with that. And before you know it, next thing you know, they're physics majors and they're chemical engineers, and they want to buy back their childhood.
Right.
And that's what they do. And it's generational at this stage of the game. And I see nothing but sustained growth. But that big boost that we had, where these collections, and I'll use a product. Now, I wasn't around to purchase these at the time, but I've heard about it. You can correct me if I'm incorrect. Was the boxes, the ETB, not the ETB, the forgive me, Evolutions, not Evolutions. Is that the $700 box that they were
XY Evolutions? Yeah, exactly. That's the one. Yeah,
people couldn't give them away.
Yeah.
Now they're $700. Well, why is that? Because someone said they're worth $700. If you couldn't give them away then, why do people want them now? And I think that growth spurt is done. And I was telling you about battle styles. That's my battle style.
Don't hate on Urshifu, man. I love me some Urshifu.
Battle styles is never going to be worth $700 a box. I'm sorry. It may get up to 200, may get to 220, but I don't think you're ever going to see those kind of numbers with that. Maybe Evolving Skies, maybe. And I was telling you that local, and I do buy things for investment. I was telling you how I bought a Cosmic Eclipse booster box for $750. Not a great price, but it's under market, and I think that's an underrated set. I think that's a set that has room to move up, and there's a separation between booster boxes and loose packs too, which I don't exactly understand. You can buy 36 packs of Fusion Strike for $250 a pack, but the booster box is going for $140, $150. I don't understand that people's rationale with that. If you want to open them form sets, I mean, my gosh, you could buy packs for on Facebook, if you get lucky, $250 a pack.
Terry, the mix up here is you try to apply rationality to the Pokemon market. Those two things don't go together.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Everything's irrational. But how do you see things looking in the future? What do you think is going to happen as we move through this, based on your experience in coins and sports and different areas?
I think you're seeing a move to higher price retail products. Friday, we have that nice set coming out. I know I have one on order coming from Walmart, $400 set. I mean, that's a good chunk of money for the average person to spend, but they're relatively tough to get. I don't know if it's because they sold out quickly or they just didn't make a lot, or maybe a combination of both. But the UPCs that came out with the Charizard UPC, the 151. $120, $130, and there's no shortage of people wanting to buy those, which I think is great. I think the quality of the product's better now than it's ever been, which creates a problem to people who like the great cards, because I mean, not too tough to get a PSA 10. As Dan calls them, participation trophies in some cases. And I agree, in some cases. Some sets aren't made that well, and it's a little tougher. But by and large, I think it's nothing but positive, because you have younger kids, who are growing up now. They're going to have disposable income to buy back that childhood. And they have fathers to do it with, because their fathers grew up with.
Yeah.
which is what you're doing, which is what
I'm
Dan's
one of
doing.
them. Yeah.
And I just think that's
Exactly.
great. I didn't
Exactly.
do that with my children. I have a lot of regrets about working all the time and not being home with my children and sacrificing those years. And that was one thing I wanted to tell you folks out there who do have children. My gosh, spend as much time as you can with them, because you're only going to get one shot at it. You're never going to be able to go back and get those years back, and you'll spend the rest of your life regretting that.
Yeah, and that's something we'll definitely dive a little bit deeper into in the personal section. But it's definitely echoed here. It's something I was just speaking about this week with my wife, and trying to find that balance between work and life, and trying to grow, make more money, advance in your career, whatever the case may be, but also be there for the events for the kids, and do the homework, watch the movies, whatever the case may be. It's a hard balance to find, but yeah, we'll definitely dive a little bit more into that. Pongo here says it's Terry taking sides, not sitting on the fence. So refreshing. So refreshing.
I call them as I see them. Sometimes that
And
ruffles feathers.
Dan confirming the participation trophies here with us.
He's right.
Yeah. So one of the other things I was curious about is, do you have any collection goals? Are you looking to actually achieve anything? Because we didn't really talk about that in our pre-call.
No, I actually don't. I get as much enjoyment out of a dollar card as I do out of $100 ETB. I really do. I like the way the cards look. Again, I don't open the cards. I buy boxes. I just enjoy them. I'm at a point in my life where financially I have money to buy one of everything and not have to worry about investments. And I legitimately have fun. My wife, I was telling you before we came on, brought me one of those Walmart Crown Zenith Pikachu boxes. It's a Black Friday. I think I got about 20 of those. I buy them because I think they're a good buy. For $25 plus, she works at Walmart, we get 10% off too. So that's
nice. A little bit extra on top, right? and then of course it's a tax write-off.
Exactly. I don't actually have any goals. I mean, I would love to have one of every ETB made, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money for them because I don't think the value is there for one. But I would love to have that.
Okay.
But I don't actually have any goals. I just look at the next set. Like today, the new ETB on Pokemon Center got released. I bought several cases of those. I think that Mimikyu is cool. Mimikyu is one of my favorite characters.
I like it.
And I saw the promo card that's coming with that. I think that's a killer.
Oh, did you? What was it? I didn't see it.
A picture of it has a picture of a lady. I think she's writing, but it's like an actual human sitting there from a profile. Then Mimikyu sitting on a blanket, and I think it's going to be a nice card.
Yeah. I didn't catch that one. Yeah, I have to check it out. So you heard it here, Legion and Chloe. Your dad's Christmas gifts are going to be some old ETBs. Get them in some old sealed ETBs. Looks like you're going to be on some podcasts coming up. So Pongo here says we got to get Terry on our podcast.
I'd love to. Anybody wants to spend time with me? I have nothing but time.
Love it.
Trust me.
Love it.
I have a tendency to ramble. If you can keep me focused and on track,
then we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move out of that. One of the things I think that really stuck with me when we were talking is you made a phrase, and the phrase was, profits are to be found in the market if we're just willing to share the information. That was the statement you made to me. And I wrote that down. I like that a lot. And I think that's a really good way for us to look at what happens next when we talk about financials. One of the things that we both agree on is it's not spoken about enough. And perhaps, as I tried to articulate, it's not that many of us haven't said it, myself included in this. It's that we don't typically repeat it on every video, where we're typically given a delta or an update on the aggregation of, whatever the past was. So we're not always refreshing the perspective of how should you really be managing your finances. And I think looking at you having the experience, give us some insight on, we'll start with the personal side. How do you kind of start your personal planning? What's your perspective on that before you start to dip into the business and the investments in other areas?
Okay. Well, let me share a quick story with you of how I actually got involved in finance and investing and taking a look at my future. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for a gold mine out in California for security. and they only hired former Marines that got out for their security force. And there was an older gentleman on that. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy to you, but back then, this was 1990. I was making $14.50 an hour, which was a lot of money back then with a lot of overtime. So I had all this money in my hands that I'd never had before. And I bought a brand new Trans Am. I bought jet skis, all the things a young 24, 25-year-old man would want. And the one gentleman, older guy, says, "Terry, what are you doing with all your money?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "You ever
blowing it?"
I'm blowing it. I'm having fun. I'm being a kid, And he says, "You ever think, what a mutual fund is?" And I said, "No." So he taught me about mutual funds, in particular Vanguard Group. And so he taught me what back then you didn't have Roth IRAs. They were traditional IRAs, which was, pre-taxed, not post-tax. And so I maxed it back then. The maximized amount was $2,000 a year you could put in. I started doing that every year. And then, like anything, I have this addictive personality. When I go into something, I go full force.
Go hard.
Yeah. And it's stuck with me. And then once I started a family, I've always been preoccupied with the future and being in a position where I don't have to work when I'm old. And we've prepared for that. I don't have to work. I do work though. I hustle Pokemon cards. I hustle trick and trade Pikachus on Facebook for 50 cents each, and people laugh at that. But when you're only paying 3 to 5 cents a piece for them, and you move hundreds of them, it adds up to a couple $100 over to a couple hundred here, 300 there, 500. It all adds up, and I know people get a kick out of that, and that's okay. I don't mind. There's money to be made off of $1 cards and $2 cards. Trust me.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm doing it.
Ask Nick about that. He specializes in them 99-cent cards.
Yeah, raw cards is where I spend my time as well, for the most part.
But I've always been preoccupied with retirement, and we maximize our Roths out every year, and I have other things that we invest in. So the Pokemon card investing is just a small portion of our wealth, what we put money into. And I do buy for investment. I plan on, and I'll give you an example. We use those Pokemon Center ETBs that came on the market. Well, we'll use the last ones that came on, the Paradox Rift. So I secured 5 cases of each of those. As soon as they sold out, like in a day, 2 days, I listed them on eBay for $85 a piece. I sold 4 cases of each. That paid for the case I get to keep for me. So I have nothing into that. And I do that with every one that comes onto the market. So what I do hold in inventory, I'm not at retail. In fact, in a lot of cases, I'm not even at wholesale. And I think if you buy wisely like that you can put some money into it. But as for any supplemental investment, whether it be precious metals, whether it be art, coins, Pokemon cards, I think 10% of your net wealth is healthy. Any more than that, then it becomes speculative, in my opinion.
Okay. So if you go back to the personal side, you're maxing out your Roth, you're maxing out your 401k, you paid off your debt. I mean, all those things.
No credit card. Well, I shouldn't say no credit card debt. I pay
just the revolving.
Everything with my credit card, because I get that 2%. But I don't carry a balance.
Right. Yeah, it's a revolving 30-day window that you just make sure is clean. Yeah. Okay. All right. So then, and that's a good point that I wanted to make here, is that, and it's something we talked about in our pre-call, making sure we have those boxes checked and we really take care of those other areas first is really important. And to your point with me, it's not talked about enough. It's made as a comment here and there, but there's obviously not. I think, Dan, you mentioned one time a while back you were going to start a finance channel. Let us know when you do it, Dan, because it needs to be said. There's a lot of value in speaking about that. So all of you listening, starting midway, 20 years in, whatever the case may be, check those boxes first on the personal side before you throw in your money into Pokemon.
See, that's why I made some of the comments that I did on some of those channels, because I see some of the comments that people are making, should I go, buy all of this or that? And, they're leveraging themselves, and that's dangerous. for the average person. I'll on Facebook, like I'll be selling $15, $20 cards, promo cards, and can you hold one till Friday for me when I get paid? And I answer no. I cannot do that, because you should be buying that card if you have to wait till payday. And I will not participate in you doing that. I just won't.
Yeah. And I had that experience for me the first time. Somebody had bought something on like a Tuesday on eBay. And I'm not rushing to get paid. I'm not pushing to move the inventory quickly. So I kind of let it sit, and he hadn't paid in a couple of days, and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" He said, "Yeah, I'm just waiting for payday." I was like, "Oh,
shouldn't be investing in Pokemon cards."
Yeah, you should know about this graded card for me then.
What I tell people, I don't really tell anybody, but if someone would ask me, here's people who should invest in Pokemon cards: when you max out your Roth, when you max out your contributory 401k, when you pay off all of your debt that's over 3.5%, 4% interest rate, whether it be a car, whether it be your house, then you can buy Pokemon cards as an investment.
Agreed,
again,
100%.
only my opinion, but that formula has worked for me. We bought our house in 2000. We paid it off in 2007. We carry zero credit card debt. Everything we have, we own. Everything.
That's nice.
I'm not opposed to debt. Credit's a good thing. Credit will I use credit all the time. Like those Pokemon Center ETBs, they don't bill you until they ship them. I'm going to have those sold by the time I get hit for them, and that's using other people's money. And that's another key that a lot of people don't understand or don't know about or don't know how to utilize.
And I think it's important, and to say it slightly differently, is using debt wisely is a very good thing. And you get to benefit from that, but making sure you avoid the interest, making sure that you understand what that wisely means, and being very prudent with the dates. If it's a year, no interest, okay, great. But then make sure you're able to pay that off in a split second whenever you need to, and you have that cash aside if that's what you want to do. But yeah, I agree with you there. Using debt is actually very smart. That's the way that people get wealthy. Just gotta use it properly.
Using other people's money.
Yeah, that's right. Don't use your own. So Ponga's got to know, Terry, how many cases you got?
I was only able to secure 5 today. They cut me off after 5.
Did they? Only did, I think, 2 for myself. I usually do 2. 1 for all of us to open here in the family, because I got a family of 4. And then the other one I sell to pay for the one that I purchased. And that's
they have a tendency to cut you off after 24 hours, or sometimes after 7 days. So I'm going to try again to get 5 more cases tomorrow, but I'll probably max out at 10 cases. I don't be too greedy. And again, if they don't sell out, well, then it's all for naught. You can just cancel those cases a week before they ship them. Again, it's utilizing other people's money.
That's right. That's right. This sounds a lot like a Dan video. Sorry.
Okay, man, I'm not opposed to that. Two good brains put together,
There we go. I'm liking it. We got what is it here? I saw somebody say that it sounds like a Dave Ramsey.
I like Dave Ramsey.
Terry for sure idolizes Dave Ramsey. He's not wrong on a lot of things. That's for sure.
I do disagree when he comes to talking about term insurance, though. Talking to somebody I had term insurance on myself, but I always had whole life on my kids, because you're probably never going to have to capitalize on that. Term, it's cheaper, but that money's gone. Your kids are going to be able to cash that money out. You're going to get that money back, and you're going to be covered. So I disagree with term insurance
details,
and whole life at other points. So, but he's adamant.
Generally speaking, he's good about the debt for sure. Yeah, starting from the beginning. Walrus, I'm sorry, man. If you're out there waiting for people's paydays, we're going to expose you all day long, my friend, all day long. No, I don't think you do, Terry. You don't have a channel, do you?
No, I can't believe anybody would want to talk to me. I told you that. I'll log on to somebody's chat. And first off, I don't catch many lives because I go to bed at 8 o'clock. Literally, I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, 8:30.
Thanks for staying up.
Now, on Monday nights, I play in a poker tournament. So I'll come home, I get home 11 o'clock. And sometimes I'll catch PK live or somebody live, where sometimes Dan will be during the day or something. And I'll stop in and say, hey, everyone. People go, hey, Terry's here. It's going to get crazy. And it's like, why do you say that? I mean, I'm a nobody. I'm just somebody watching a channel who happens to make a comment there. But I
I
would
love
love
it.
to have a channel if anybody would want to watch it.
You won't know until you create it, Terry. You got to start it, my friend. You got to start it. And I'm sorry once again. I'm not really, but it sounds like we scripted this by Dan. Dan writes all of my podcasts. Every podcast I have, Dan gives me the entire script. If I don't follow it, then he takes away my Pokemon cards. So Terry, do you ride around with pallets of boxes on your riding lawnmower?
No, I do cut my own grass though, unfortunately, and I do it with a push mower. I don't do it with a riding mower.
Oh no, yeah, we got to upgrade that one, Terry. You got to spend some money and invest in the lawnmower.
I'm cheap like that.
iFOMOs, Terry, is a pleasure.
I appreciate
Lots of love for you, Terry. Lots of love. All right. So, Terry, any vintage at all or just modern? So, here from Retrograded. Just curious. And
No vintage. Now I have bought a couple binder collections here and then, sent some things off and sold. But the oldest thing that I have is I have an ETB from not the 25th, but the 20th. It has the Pikachu on the front. Is it Generations? Is it
Yep, correct.
Yeah,
Generations.
I think that's the oldest that I have, and that's what, 5 years old, 6 years old.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably going back to your previous comment, spending that kind of money on the older products, just it's hard
I don't
to
see
justify.
value there. I just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into the next area, financials. So, one of the things I'm curious about now is how do you take your business financial strategy? You're turning money here. You have a year. Are you putting, X grand aside because I want to buy a new product? I want to spend this to grow and maybe go into other areas. What's your business financial strategy?
Well, capital's not a problem for me, so I don't have to really worry about that. If I want to buy a bunch of something, I just buy it. I'm lucky like that. But the reason I'm lucky like that is because of how I've lived and how we've lived our life prior to that. So we're in a position to be like that. But I just see something that comes on the market, and Dan says it all the time. What's successful is a fan favorite Pokemon priced well. And that's true. That's a recipe for success every time. So I'll use the plays that I've been doing. This weekend, I unloaded a bunch of Chinese Detective Pikachu promos. I was able to get them for $11 shipped from China. I moved them for $18. Not going to get rich off of that, but I moved 170 of them over the weekend. A little bit of money here and there. How I structure things goes into, I guess, if I have a beef with Dan, is the use for an accountant. And I know Dan's very intelligent, and I know he's busy though, but I don't see any use for an accountant. In my past businesses, I've been the accountant, and I continue to be an accountant in my life. I've done taxes professionally for H&R Block. I have no problem administering financial advice. You can take it or leave it. It works for me. So what I do, I file a Schedule C. I don't have an S corp. Most people don't have a reason to have an S corp. If you're making, okay, so the difference between sole proprietor who's going to file a Schedule C on his personal taxes and an S corp. An S corp could be used for a few reasons. If you have a partner, if you have, first off, what a corporation does, it puts an umbrella over your personal finances and liabilities, and it sets you aside. So in my case, the S corp that I had a restaurant. So I had a partner, so I had an S corp for those two reasons, in case someone would, if I would poison somebody, that my personal assets aren't attached.
Right.
But most people don't really have a reason for an S corp. If you're making crazy money, then it makes sense, because with an S corp, you're required by law to take a salary that's comparable to what somebody does in
the market.
Your profession. In my case, I took a minimal salary, what a restaurant manager would make. Then any profits above that gets passed through in a form of a K1. Okay. You pay your FICA taxes, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare on the paycheck that you take, your 25,000, 30,000 you take, but you don't have to pay them as a company for your distributions that you take. That money comes straight funneled to your personal tax return, and then you pay based on your tax rate, whatever your personal tax rate is. So
tax bracket. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I have no reason to have an S corp. I work out of my house. I keep very detailed records of everything I buy, when I buy it, what I sold it for. And then when if people aren't familiar, they can pull a Schedule C up on Google and see there's a line item for all the things you can take. So basically, I know something I wanted to talk about that no one's talking about. What's going to happen when these people get these 1099Ks at the end of the year from PayPal?
Right. Exactly.
Don't even know that's coming. But what that is the law prior to this year was if you had 200 or more transactions and 20,000 or more dollars in sales, you would have to pay tax on that. They'd give you a 1099K. Now that's also going to go straight to the IRS. So you can ignore that if it comes in the mail to you or in your email.
Not a good idea.
But you don't want to ignore that.
Don't do that.
So basically, they're going to say, okay, I sold $50,000 on eBay. They're going to give that to you. From that, you get to deduct certain things. You get to deduct the eBay fees. You get to deduct the postage. You get to deduct the cost of goods sold. You get to deduct the
square footage of your home.
Exactly. So you take your square footage of your home, and then you take that, you divide it by what you use for your personal
office space. Right.
And if it's 1/10 or 1/20th, you can deduct 1/10 or 1/20th of your electric bill, your property taxes, a whole slew of things. For somebody who's going to gross 50,000 a year in sales, providing your profit margins 20%, you're going to find it hard to actually turn a profit on paper. You can almost guarantee you're going to have a loss on 50,000 based on all the legal deductions you can make. And you don't need an accountant to do that for you. That's my point. You can do it yourself. It's not that hard. And if you are an S corp, you file what's called a 941 4 times a year. And what that is that your payroll taxes, your withholdings for your payroll. And if you don't have any employees, it's just you. Don't make it personal, but I talked to Dan because Dan's smart enough to do that himself. And I don't want him to have to use an accountant because he doesn't need to spend that money on that. He can spend it on more Pokemon cards or treating his wife to a nice ring or his kids to a vacation or something. I don't mean that maliciously. I meant that in a good way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to let you go, but I was going to bring this up as well. So Dan mentioned that the S corps are a pass-through entities like sole providers, just better when you're making a decent coin. Yeah, so that's kind of your point. And once you reach a certain level,
you're not paying wage taxes on that distributions. Your company's not paying that. You're going to end up paying it when you get that through your K1 on your personal taxes.
Right.
But for somebody such as him who does the volume he does, that matters.
Exactly. I mean, he's definitely making, as he says, a decent coin. So that makes more sense at that point. Yeah.
But I do want to go. Dan, listen to me. I don't want you to use an accountant. You can do that 941 yourself. Look into it, please.
Just sign up to our Patreon, Dan, and we'll show you how to do it.
Yeah, $9.99.
So tell me this, Terry. Let's go back because I want to make it very simple for the people that are going to get this 1099 this year, and probably the first one for many people that ever gotten if they sold over $600. Right. What is the very concise preparation they should be doing to be ready for that?
Okay. You can get that 1099 and not even have a business. Say you had a motorcycle and someone paid you through PayPal $1,200 and they didn't pay your friends and family and your goods and service. They're going to give you a 1099. And now you have to file that Schedule C to account for that money. And if you look at that Schedule C, that's a line item. What item for item, what you can deduct. Now, the software I use to prepare my taxes is H&R Block. So when you go into H&R Block and say you had a small Pokemon business and you're getting that 1099, one of the first questions that ask you, did you get W-2 income? Did you get K1? And did you get a 1099K? And then it'll populate questions for you to fill in those blanks. What was the cost of the goods you sold? There's a block for postage. There's a block for eBay fees, transaction fees, all that stuff. And if you keep accurate records and know the square footage of your home and have all that, and mileage is another good thing, claim the mileage when you go to the post office. I keep track of all of that. One little things I do, every time I go to Walmart, I buy a pack of Pokemon cards, or I go to Target. And now I've traveled 6 miles to buy product. 6 miles, I think it's 65 cents a mile. That's deducted right off the top of your gross amount. And you're basically getting a pack of cards for free. And it's not illegal. It's a legal deduction. And you should maximize every deduction you can get.
Agreed. So let me restate that, and you tell me if I misunderstood. So the preparation of which people can think about to prepare for this new 1099 they may have not received before is to keep the accurate records of how they're buying, purchasing, travel, postage, the fees from the different platforms. Keep those records, because the idea is you use those costs to remove the cost of the sale. And so if you sold that motorcycle in your example for $600, now you remove that through tax deductions, and then you actually don't have any. So then you take it back to the baseline of where you were previously.
Or even better, to show a loss. And then if you
Right.
show a loss, that's actually deducted from your earned income.
Right. That's a K1 against your W-2 at that point, right? So
exactly. Yeah. And again, you take every deduction that you have coming to you. You can make a nice loss legally and not have to worry about anything.
And we're going to talk. I'm actually going to do a fictitious business build with you, so it's going to be fun. We're going to go through it, and we're going to navigate some of these same details. But before we jump to the next point, I was curious, what would be like the target range that you try to have your income at per year? Are you shooting for the 20,000 bracket? Like, where are you trying to get yourself down to?
Well, I don't know if this is a little bit too complex or not, but one thing I didn't talk about is harvesting losses. That's the next step, harvesting losses. So give you an idea. So I have money in a mutual fund that I bought at the height. My wife has a 401k at work. I contribute, and I'm older. I'm allowed to actually contribute more with what's called a catch-up contribution. We put 75% of her money, her pay, into her 401k. I replaced that money with money from a mutual fund that I'm actually redeeming at a loss, so I can claim that capital gains loss. Mm-hmm. But I'm really just moving money from one account to another and harvesting a loss. And you can, if you find yourself in a position where you're going to be overly profitable, you can look at maybe some of your stale product and sell it for a loss. Take that loss, offset some of your gains, and move stale inventory. I don't know if that's a little complex for some people. I don't know. It really isn't hard. I don't mean that in a demeaning way, but that's
no, I don't take it that way.
People.
Yeah, I mean, you're going several levels, deeper as we continue the conversation, and we'll change it up in here in a minute, just so people don't get too finance, dry-eyed. But what I would say is, it's interesting because many times people have the question of how can you sell product at a loss? Why would you be willing to sell a product at a loss? And this starts to answer that question, because then you actually are removing the actual revenue that you're making for the year, lowering your tax bracket, and paying less taxes, or perhaps none, depending on
freeing up money.
Right. So when you start to look at it, the big picture that way, selling something at a loss intentionally by decision can make sense, and that's why companies
in some cases, absolutely. And I do that. Like I said, we put all of our money into our 401k and just take the money out of our mutual fund to live off of. And we're just moving it from one account to another. And I'm harvesting these losses and bringing down our earned income to zero. And actually, if I play my cards right, I'll have a business loss this year and no earned income if I plan it right.
Exactly. I apologize. The chat's moving a little bit too much for me to catch it all. So if you posted something and I missed it, please feel free to
oh my gosh, I've just read that. You got up on that's funny. I will never call him that again. My wife says I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to be nice, but that is very funny though. That made me laugh.
Brad G. Terry spitting here. Yeah. Spitting the knowledge. That's for sure. Spitting the knowledge. One of the things I was curious about as we move into the kind of into at least this perspective of the finances is what resources are you using to stay up to date on changes in taxes? That happens every year. There's always something. What are you leveraging to kind of stay informed?
Personally, my taxes aren't that complex. I don't have a corporation, so I don't have to worry about that. I follow everything on a Schedule C. I'm very meticulous with what I buy, writing it down, what I sell it for, how many trips I go to the post office, and then every month I have a Facebook, PayPal / business that I have, and I have money through my eBay stream. So I get two K1s. I'm sorry, two 1099Ks,
1099s,
and I keep separate books on them. And so when I get that, every month I do a P&L, what I spent for cost of goods sold, what I spent on fees, everything inclusive.
in Excel, or do you use any special software?
No, I pencil and paper. I have a notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to use Excel. I'll be honest with you. You of all people should know that I barely know how to log on to do this stream. I'm not very.
It only took one practice run. We had it down pat.
Easy. But no, I just keep very accurate records, and I combine them once a month. So come the end of the year, I don't have to go through a lot of receipts. I have everything clear and concise.
Yeah.
So when the software comes out, that's the thing. It's tough to navigate sometimes, because sometimes they don't ask you the questions on the software that you actually need to have asked. Like last year, I was using TurboTax, have everything in, but it would not ask me cost of goods sold, and that's your biggest deduction. Right. And I spent hours doing my taxes on there and just it would not ask me that question. It's not like you can just go put that in on your Schedule C.
Pick the form, yeah.
So I went to H&R Block and populated it right up. It just walks you step by step, and it's not hard. And again, I'm very reachable. If you want to email me with a question, more than happy. If you want to call me on the phone, I'll answer it. I have nothing but time on my hands, and I'm willing to help people. And that's what I wanted to get across tonight. That why I'm here is because we all can learn from everybody. It's a community, Pokemon community.
I'm learning.
Let's pull our assets together and learn from everybody.
I totally agree with you, and I've learned a lot today. I learned a lot yesterday, and I can definitely confirm. One of the comments that Terry made in the video where I had Dan on the podcast originally, I said, Terry, I would love to learn more. Reach out to me. Here's my email. And Terry wrote me a very long email, which I was thankful for. And I read that thing several times. I reached out to him. We had a few exchanges back and forth, and here we are today. So definitely always willing to help. So we appreciate that.
You can learn from everybody. That's why I watch everybody's content. Some people are a little more advanced than others, but everybody has a little niche. They know a little about something. Exactly. And pull that all together, then it forms a big union.
I got two here that you're gonna like. Not necessarily this one, but Dan's ignorance is costing him money.
Leave Dan alone, guys.
But look at this. Look at this. He's gonna look into it.
I hope he does. Dan, trust me, it's not that hard. It's a 941.
Dan's gonna look into it. Here we go.
To fill that out 4 times a year, and you told me that you give your accountant all the information up front. So I have to fill.
He's gonna do it while he's mowing his lawn.
While he's doing chemical experiments, huh?
You can't do that when you have a push mower, Terry. So only if you have a ride lawnmower can you do this. That's why you got to upgrade, man. You can do taxes and cut your grass at the same time.
Exactly. Seriously, I'm available. You want to send me an email? I have a Facebook page. You can message me through there. I will be more than happy to answer any question, no matter how novice it is or how. I mean, I'm not an expert. I did do taxes professionally though. And I've done my own corporate taxes for years, with my restaurant. It's not that hard, especially with the software nowadays. Back in the day, you had to do all that by hand and all those calculations by hand on paper. Right. And that was challenging.
A lot easier nowadays. A lot easier. We definitely have some love in the chat for you here. I think I see Mr. Walrus here is operating on a loss. He's struggling. Love the money talks, says Dan. Yeah, I'm taking the L's on the loss. Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump over to the next area. So we kind of talked about finances a little bit. We're going to also dip into that as we talk more about business. But I wanted to get into the personal side of your backstory. It's a really great story. I wrote down, you wouldn't believe I think I had several pages of notes from our conversation.
I've got a long story.
It's a big part of that was obviously where it all came from and where you started. So you graduated in '83, if I got it correct, right? Mm-hmm. You were a physics major, but didn't finish college, right? Correct. moved into the Marine Corps in '84 as
Correct.
a Hawk missile radar tech.
Yeah,
Is
I was
that
a
right?
radar tech, correct.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that military experience as a Hawk missile
Wow.
radar tech. What was that
I
like?
attribute, and success is relative, but I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, I'm successful. My family's kicking. I don't have to worry about finances. I don't worry have about getting divorced. I got nothing but good things in my life. That being said, I attribute all of that to the Marine Corps and the discipline that it instills in you. Uh, I'm very proud to say that I'm a U.S. Marine. I know that doesn't mean a lot to the other services. My oldest is an Army vet, and I have 2 in the Army now. It's a lot of cases just a job for people in other services, but the Marine Corps, it's different. Uh,
Yeah.
we take it a little more seriously. Uh, it teaches you attention to detail,
It
to
does.
to take it to the next level. Like I went to school on an Army base, Fort Bliss, Texas, for my school, and we had to run longer than anybody else ran. We had to do more push-ups than all the other Army units did. And I strive that. I'm not satisfied with being like everybody else. Not trying to be braggadocious. We have a very nice house. I want a nice house. I don't want to live. I don't want to have to worry about things. I want the best of everything. And I'm willing to do what it takes for that. Um, and
Yeah,
it all,
military teaches a lot. Yeah.
so
Yeah. It definitely taught me a lot of the same things. We've got some love for or from IFMO as well. I saw somebody else previously also said thank you for your service.
you're
So
very welcome.
no, no. But yeah, the military changes your life, and there's a time there where it's very hard, especially if you're going straight out of high school. It's very hard, and you have moments that you want to quit, like most of anything that's difficult. But after that's over, as Steve Jobs says, looking back, you can connect the dots, and it's a great builder of character and patience that you will leverage for the rest of your life. So
That's true.
yeah. So then you went from Marine Corps. I didn't hear anything. Tell me about. I want to hear something about this radar tech on Hawk missiles. Tell me
Actually,
some cool
I went to
story.
school. It was 49 weeks long. It's the longest school that the Marine Corps has. It's actually an Army MOS, what you guys would call a 24 Echo, but you don't have them anymore because Hawk got replaced by Patriot missiles, which a lot of
Yeah.
people know what those are. But Hawk came out, actually, ironically about Hawk, the very first unit that went to Vietnam was a Marine Corps Hawk unit. So what
Nice.
Hawk does, Hawk
Didn't know that.
shoots jets down at about 70 miles out. So what happens is one of the first units to come in is a Hawk unit. And what that does, that provides anti-aircraft for about 70 miles out. And then the grunts come in, the land forces come in. And after they establish, the Hawk unit goes out further, and then the ground units come in. And it's just
Advance.
moving
Right.
out like that. It works on Doppler radar, which what Doppler is it sends out a frequency. And if something's stationary, the same frequency it transponds, it receives at the same frequency. That's how you know it's not moving. If it's moving away, the frequency will be greater because it takes longer for that frequency to come back. There's a computer and measures that. And that's how you locate it through Doppler radar. Now, when you hear about Doppler radar, they talk about it meteorology, Doppler radar.
Right.
But it worked on vacuum tubes of all things. It didn't work with these big, elaborate, solid state units. It worked on vacuum tubes, which used to be what TVs were made out of back in the day.
Yeah, and computers too. Yeah,
and big CRTs.
Yep.
And I went to school for that. And when I got to my unit in Yuma, Arizona, is where I got stationed. They really didn't have need for me as a radar tech, so I became the security NCO. I was the person that handled what was called the IFF codes. What IFF codes are is identification, friend or foe. Since we shoot jets down, we send out this code, and every plane has a responding code. That's how you know if it's a friend or a foe. They better know that code or it's going to get shot down. So I was the one who was in charge of getting those codes every day.
Nice.
Sort of cool. I had a top secret clearance, which really sounds cool, but it ain't no big deal. But it's one of the neat things.
Put that on the resume.
Yeah, one of the neat things I got to do. I got sent to an operation up in 29 Palms, California, and I had to take the IFF codes, and they literally put them in a briefcase and handcuffed them to my wrist. and I made sure everybody saw me.
Really?
I just wanted to be seen. I felt like James Bond. Here I am, 23-year-old, 22-year-old kid, and it's like, how cool is this?
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. So top level security and got handcuffed the codes to your arm and walk around. I love it. I love it. Great story. I want to hear more about that another time for sure.
Sure.
Dan, thank you. Thank you. So Dan became a member. It only took, a year. Thank you, Dan. But he gifted too, man. Thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate it. All jokes aside, deeply appreciate it, Dan. Thank you, man. So you moved from the military, and I may get some of these timings off, so you correct me where I'm wrong. You got married at some point in this process, but then you also got divorced.
Yes.
You mentioned the gold mine, but that was after you left the military.
Yeah, I left the Marine Corps, went to the gold mine, worked out there probably a year and a half, 2 years. By that time, I was divorced. The ex-wife moved back home, Pittsburgh area. And I had no friends out there at this point. They all got out of the Marine Corps. So I was by myself. I really didn't know anyone. And it's like one day I want to come home. So I came home, just packed up everything I had in my Trans Am. I had a pet snake and a pet ferret, put them in the back and all my stereo
I love it.
and just moved home.
I love it.
1990, I moved back home.
What was that show? A bit of a side rant here, Terry. What was that show? Knight Rider.
Yeah, Knight Rider.
Right.
I think
so
it was Kit that was the name of that car, wasn't it?
Exactly. So
let me tell you, I know
Terry.
That sounds as Trans Am. You guys may not know what that looks like, but I know what it looks like. Nice, that car.
No, it was nice, man. I had a Firebird, and mine was it was a little bit different model, but I could see Terry in his 20s packing up his ferret.
I actually had hair, long hair.
Packing his ferret in the Firebird, or excuse me,
and my snake, yeah.
And peeling out tires. I'm going home. I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Mason, you lurking? Mason, man, what's going on, dude? You're usually quite talkative. Too much financial talk for you. Made you realize why your business is struggling.
I'm hard on Mason. I will admit, I am hard on Mason. I am.
Oh, are you? I didn't see anything in his comments, but okay.
I like Mason. I have admiration for him, but I am hard on him at times.
I like Mason too. He's a good guy.
I love to watch him.
Yeah. Another 5, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah,
sir.
Get off some of that old money, Dan. Come on, get off some of that old money.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Really do appreciate it. Let's move now. So now you left the military. You packed up your Trans Am, got your pets in the car. You came back home. Now this was after the divorce?
Yes.
Is that okay? All right. So then you get back home, and is this about the time where I know you did the gold mine, but then you came in and you did the Salvation Army, and you were a manager there.
For Salvation Army, year and a half, 2 years. So first off, I've had a lot of different jobs. I've always taken one step up on the rung for a better job, and I've had a lot of menial jobs, low-level management jobs. So I was a store manager for a thrift store for them. And that's how I got involved in antiques and learning about antiques and glassware and art and architecture and things like that. Because part of my I had 2 components to my wages. I had hourly wage and I had a bonus wage. And so a lot of times we would get cool stuff that was donated that just wasn't junk. It looked like junk to people, but it was like depression glassware that you could get more out of. So I bought a lot of research books and things like that and studied it and learned about it. And that was where I found interest in the other things that I collect. Like my wife and I collect Fiesta ware. I don't know if you know what Fiesta ware is or not. I don't. It's a type of plate. They come in multitude of colors. They've been making them since the 30s. Another generational thing. We set the table with Fiesta ware. But I learned about that and antique clothing. Anything that you think that comes through a thrift store, you just all kinds of crazy stuff, And so I learned a multitude of different collectibles and took interest in things like that.
Yeah, I wrote down in this note here that this is where you learned the hustle.
Yeah,
this is where definitely where you got some of the skills that you're leveraging today. You moved then from there to Burger King.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we talked about that a little bit already. That's where you met your wife. That's where she also worked. You guys were, stealing Pokemon cards, but we won't go there. I won't say nothing about that. We'll just let Burger King worry about that. And then within the 8 years, you actually had 6 kids.
6 kids.
Five boys, 1 girl.
Yeah. I think within 6 months of meeting my wife. So first off, a funny story how I met my wife. She worked in downtown Pittsburgh, and I worked about 30 miles northwest at a store, same Pittsburgh market, worked for the same company. And down in Pittsburgh, they would have a thing called the Million Man March, which is a group for Black folks to come down.
Yep.
And, and their store got super, super busy. So they would take other managers from other stores to go down. Well, the assistant from my store was working her store that day. And she came back, and I happened to be working my store. And she says, "Terry, Tiffany's down there waiting for you to call." I said, "For what?" She says, "Because to go out." I said, "I don't even know her." And she said, so she dials the phone. I hang the phone up. I said, "I'm not calling her." So eventually she gave me a caller, and Tiffany answered the phone. I said, "Yeah, this is Terry from store 1887. And I didn't know what to say. I said, "Are we going to go out or what?" I just didn't know what to say, but that's what I asked her. She says, "I guess if you want to." And within 6 months, we were living together. And within 9 months, we were having our first child.
Sounds about like our story.
Over the course of 8 years, we had 6 children, the last being twins. So our kids are really close together. Griffin was born in 93, and the twins were born in 2000.
Okay. So good family built, got solid foundation. And then you move over to Domino's Pizza because you wanted to get out of the same restaurant that you were working with.
Oh my God, that's all we talked about. The same, work for the same company, Burger King.
How many cards did you steal today, sweetheart? I stole 50. How many did you steal?
I ended up working for Domino's Pizza, and I took the general manager's job out there. And again, working for Burger King, I knew how to run a restaurant. It was just a different product, And so I had to learn how to make pizza. You have to learn how to make pizza. You have to know how to dock it, slap it. But it's not hard. You just learn it like anything else. And I did that. I worked for a single unit franchisee who didn't provide benefits or anything. It was sort of low wages. And I just needed to move on. I liked what I did. I liked making pizza. But first off, it was a dead end job because I was a general manager. I worked for the owner. I was never going to go anywhere. And it wasn't a high paying job. So I ended up working for Denny's and paid very well. And I actually learned about business. You run a multi-million-dollar business, you're doing a schedule for 40, 50 employees. You're handling all the HR. You're doing all the hiring, all the termination, all the food ordering, plus all the day-to-day operations of running a store.
Yeah, and that's really where you picked up the whole running the business at a large scale. Is that right? So that's really all came into play. And then from there, you actually transitioned into buying your own restaurant.
Yeah. So
I'm skipping around, I'm sure.
You're right. I didn't actually share this with you. It wasn't like cut and dry. I do this and I'm doing that. I sort of transitioned. So I got a computer back in probably 1997, 98, 96, 97, that area. 97. And computers were new. Not everybody had computers back then. I was one of the few people I knew that actually had one. So I'm online surfing one day. I come across a website called ebay.com. Never heard of it before. Okay. And I'm looking at all the things that you can buy on eBay.
This is amazing.
It's amazing. And I'm a big Kiss fan, the rock group Kiss. And I found somebody selling VHS tapes. If you guys know what a VHS tape is.
I watched them. Yeah, I'm 42, Terry. I'm not that young.
Some of the people are young that watch your station. But anyway,
that's true.
They had a lot of concert footage of these different shows from Kiss, and I wanted them. So I was buying them for $10 a pop, get a VHS tape. I will watch them and realize all they did was make a copy of theirs and sold me theirs. So I'm thinking, I can do this. So I started selling copies of Kiss shows. And I started doing it in quantity. So what I would,
Hustling the VHSs.
I
I
had
love it.
4 VHS tapes. I would play it, machines. I'd play it in one, record it on 3, make 3 tapes at once. And somebody would find me and they would buy 10 or 12 or 20 shows at a time for $10. Crazy, right? Then I started with other bands that,
And you were getting the tapes for like 10 cents each, right?
yeah. So then it got to the point, well, CDs came in the market.
Oh,
And I bought
CD
what we
burner
call
towers.
a CD duplicator, which was
Yep.
force feed. You put it in, you take an hour
I
CD,
remember those.
15 minutes to load it, it would eject it. You put a blank in, 15 minutes to write it. So I transferred all the VHS tapes to CD, then I started selling CDs. And then I thought, you know what? I can go bootleg shows that come to Pittsburgh. So I took a little mini disc recorder and I started going to all the shows in Pittsburgh and bootlegging shows and selling copies of it.
Oh, this is great.
And
this is all while you were working at the restaurant?
I haven't got to the restaurant. In the meantime, as
Okay.
this was happening, I came across my old assistant at the Domino's. He was partners at another restaurant, the pizza shop that was just starting. And he says, hey, do you want to help me out part-time when we open a shop? I said, sure. I ain't got nothing but time on my hands. And in the interim, they started arresting people for these bootleg CDs. So I got to get out of that business. You know?
That was it.
You got to get out before I get arrested. I don't want to do any
Yeah.
of that. So, but I made a lot of money doing that. Let's just say, and that's how I bought the portion of my house, was with that money. You know,
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen was a huge seller. You know, I had 50 or 60 shows of him. People would buy, 20 shows at a time. So I'd be getting checks for $300, $400, $500 at a time for these CDs, and it was crazy that I couldn't do that anymore. I was going to get put out of business. So the guy I ended up being partners with at my restaurant, he says, I know a guy that's selling his pizza shop. And I said, do you want to buy it? And it's like, well, I got to do something. Let's go meet with him. So we went and met with him and ended up buying that restaurant. And I was only going to work this other guy's 2 days off, but it was hopping. And you got to keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind. And we needed to be there all the time, because the people that was running that was on them blind. And it's like, we're there all the time. So it became not only a full-time job, it became a 3-time job. And I had that shop from 2000 until 2007 when I sold it. Back issues, there were a couple things forced me out of the back issues was a big part of it. But the recession hit towards the tail end of that. And it really hurt our profits. But luckily, going back to preparation with your money, we paid our house off in that interim. So I didn't have debt. I had no debt at that point where I could walk away from that in a time where I just couldn't go work for somebody anymore. So that's the story of the restaurant.
The number of just gems in that conversation you just dropped was amazing. That was hilarious, fun. I had a little bit of a ride myself because I had a duplicator. I had a tower. I had all the arm drives, and I was doing some duplication myself. Yeah,
but I'm a hustler. Like, you find a market, what someone's willing to pay for it, and you need to source it for considerably less. And you take that product, and that's how I got into Pokemon. I knew nothing about Pokemon cards. Some will argue I still don't, but I do okay. I mean, I do business with eBay. I grade cards. I don't grade a lot of cards, but I do. But I specialize in Japanese and Chinese promos. I have contacts that I've met through Facebook where I can buy them in bulk. I mean in bulk. I'm not talking damn bulk of thousands. I'm talking about 100, 200 copies of a card where I have, a couple $1,000s tied up. I sell them, make that profit. Then I buy another couple hundred cards. I don't have to earn a living anymore. You're
just doing it for fun.
It's just a hustle for me that I'm never going to get out of my system. I enjoy it.
We have to know, Terry, did you make it to Woodstock? Are you the one? Because
99 did not go to that.
I do have some bootlegs of VHSs still of Woodstock.
Really?
So, yeah,
I threw all that stuff away.
I kept it, man. I got my DVDs. I got my cassettes. I got all that stuff. I did go to a lot of Ozfest. Yeah, so the Ozfest were really good.
I've been to Tiffany. What was those things I took Trevor to? Not Ozfest. It was like one of those things where a bunch of bands come, different kinds of music.
Weenie Roast, perhaps.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And I would take him out to that. We've been to a lot. That's my vice. If I spend money on anything, it's concerts. I buy front row seats, and man, I get every dollar out of those seats. I'm carrying on at those shows, and that's something I do spend money on that I don't get any return other than. And I'll go back to something too. I didn't, because I've done a lot of things. So as I was doing this restaurant, I was still doing bootlegging, but I started bootlegging cartoons like He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Spider-Man, all these cartoons that were all out of print that I bought off eBay, and I bootleg DVDs from them. So before Comic-Cons were called Comic-Cons, they were called toy shows back, and we're talking 2000, 99, 2000, 2001. In Pittsburgh, we have a big one now, but when we did that show, it was small. But I would sell DVDs of those cartoons at that. And again, people bought that stuff. You can't get those. And then they started shutting you down. You have to adapt. You have to learn how to, and they move you out of something, you need to move into something else.
That's right.
The moral of that story is I learned about those markets, and if Pokemon goes away, I'll learn about something else. But I enjoy Pokemon. I do. I enjoy looking at the cards. I like the plushies. And there's a couple things that like when the felt hat Pikachu came out, how I managed to get them. I didn't buy them on the US Pokemon Center. I bought them on Pokemon Center UK. I have there's a website called Forward to Me. I advise people to look it up, and you can get foreign addresses. So I entered the Japanese. You get address. You can get a Japanese address. You can get a Chinese address. You get a UK address, and you can apply for the lotteries that way. You can get, but I bought all of those things off of the UK because it was much easier to navigate, because I knew the UK or the US Pokemon site was going to get crushed. So that's how I managed to get those. It was off the UK site.
There we go. Dropping knowledge.
That never comes up again. Again, sharing that knowledge.
To me. Well, I think Walrus gives us some confidence here that we don't have to worry. Jesus made illegal copies of bread, so you're good, Terry. You're good. Unparalleled transparency. It goes back to sharing the knowledge.
I-99, Dan.
Brad G this dude's a hustler.
That's a compliment to me. I take that
exactly. Yeah. The Mexican hipster is like, this Terry's really incriminating himself. Clip it.
No disclosure of my finances, though. So
all right, I won't ask. No worries. We do have then the transition from your CDs, VHS CDs into LimeWire, right? So you bought into Napster.
LimeWire was the thing. You don't want to deal on LimeWire, man. I had so many computers get bugs with that.
Oh yeah, viruses were bad stuff.
It was awful.
Yep, I agree. All right. Let's get back to the story. So we had the restaurant. We did a massive amount of hustles in between. You came out of that somewhere. You go back to the points that you made about H&R Block. You had that kind of mixed in there. Yeah. You also did some hunting and taxidermy.
Yeah. So
and then you got into
having back issues in probably about 2015, and I got diagnosed with something called degenerative spinal disease. And that's where your discs lose moisture and sort of destabilize your vertebrae, and that in turn puts pressure on the nerves. And I was told that I had to have a spinal fusion. Well, I thought that I'd get better and everything. So thinking 6 months to a year to recover. Times were a little bit rocky with the pizza shop because of the economy was turning bad, and here's a good chance for me to get out. So I sold the restaurant, and I'm going to get better. Well, as I was recovering, I went to work for H&R Block and did taxes for them for a year, but I never recovered. I never got better. Something I always planned on. I never got better. One of those injuries just led to another one. And it got to the point where I couldn't do anything. I've had 4 fusions, three, four fusions. I have a spinal cord stimulator, and I had to reinvent myself. So, Terry, what do you know how to do? Well, I trapped as a kid.
Hustle.
Okay, yeah. So you know what? There's no fur dealers in Western Pennsylvania, so I'm going to start a fur business. So I found out how to import furs out of Canada. And it's funny because everybody wants their piece of the pie. So to come in through Wisconsin, they wanted an import-export license, and then through Illinois and through Indiana and through Ohio, and everybody wants their piece of the pie. So I sourced, bobcat, bear, wolf, coyote, raccoon, all these furs. I'd source them in, brought them into my house, and then I would send them off to New Jersey to get tanned, and then I would sell them on a website called taxidermy.net.
I would say, was it called eBay?
No, I have sold furs on eBay too. Yeah, but I've been predominantly on taxidermy.net.
There you go. Right. And that just goes to show, I mean, the variety of skills that you have acquired over this, let's call it 20 years to just be, somewhat generic here. It is massive. I mean, this is people's entire lifetime, and you're still running it.
Still going. I got more after this.
That's right. That's right. Quick couple of comments here. Definitely, I caught that too, Dan. I was like, did he just quote Snoop Dogg?
I did.
Yeah, I was like, I caught that. Tennis Wolf, thank you so much, sir. Much appreciated. Really, really appreciate it. Oh boy, the chat's blowing up today. I'm not able to keep up. That's good stuff. Can I get a Terra Bear podcast?
If people want it, I'll do it. I'm serious. I would love to do something. If someone wants to hear my ramblings, I'd love to do one.
This is it. We're going to cover a good bit of it here. So we're only, part of the way in, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So strap in. It's going to be a fun night. All right. So let's get back. You leave that, and now you open up. The gold and silver prices started taking off, and you open up your store. You mentioned it earlier, but now let's dive into that. So now you're into precious metals.
Yeah. So I'm doing really well with fur business, and I have a buddy of mine that I saw something I know about are coins and buying silver and gold. I've done that throughout the course of my life, just not professionally. I've always bought coins. Bought and sold coins, silver, gold. One thing I did in the Marine Corps is if you always had cash available, somebody always wanted to go out drinking. So they had something they wanted to sell, whether it be a gold chain or stereo equipment. So if you had cash available, you could make money. And I always had cash available. So I saw the prices of metals going up and thinking, man, I got to get on this train. So I started this little coin shop in my hometown. I called it Cha-Ching Coins. And it just took off. I couldn't believe it. We were busy from day one. People coming in, and basically, I sold coins. I sold scrap silver, bought scrap silver, scrap gold, gold coins, jewelry, ball cards, anything that had any value that I can make money off of. Sort of like a pawn shop, a little bit, but a little more exclusive. I didn't buy stereo equipment or TVs or anything like that.
Tools and stuff. Yeah.
But we did that for about a year. Did really well. So I reconnect with my old owner that owned the Domino's, and he wasn't doing anything at the time. And we were doing really well. So me and my partner in New Brighton took this guy on as a partner, and we went upscale to the county seat, which is Beaver. That's where the courthouse is. It's up class town, nicest town in our county. And I'm thinking, a we buy gold shop has negative connotations to the average person. What I try to do is make it where a middle class, middle-aged woman will feel comfortable coming in to do business with me. So I wear a tie, I shaved every day, I painted the walls lavender, nice soft colors. We had candles in there. So it was enticing for people. Did that, I had that for 5 years. I sold that. Again, back issues forcing that. And I planned on retiring at that. I sold that off. Successful, did really well there. And then I like I said, I planned on retiring. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. So I went down in my home and opened up another one. And I called that Lakes.
That lasted for a month. You're like, let me do it one more time.
Yeah, I've had 3 coin stores, all successful. I named this one Lakes Coins in Militaria, where I like to collect military stuff, World War II things in particular, uniforms, daggers, weapons, things like that, and coins and silver. And did that for 3 years, and I stopped that about 3 years ago. My back forced me out. I just couldn't do it anymore. I had a bed in there where I laid down during the day. and then I just built it to a business. I didn't want a business. I just wanted something to occupy my time. But I had somebody in that store all the time, and it's like it turned into this crazy business that I didn't want. I'm not complaining about it. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but
this is too successful. I don't like this.
I had to rest between clients, and I just didn't have that time anymore. And it's like, you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. And I retired about 3 years ago. And that's makes me up to where I am now with Pokemon cards.
All right. So, I mean, I'll just give a quick summary here real quick. We went from high school, physics major, Marine Corps, secret security clearance, holding, codes strapped to his arm, married, divorced, worked in a gold mine, packed up his, I keep wanting to say Firebird because that's what I had, Trans Am, with his 2 pets in the back, peeled tires out, came home, ran the Salvation Army, learned to hustle, worked at Burger King, stole thousands of Pokemon cards, moved to Domino's, where he learned the trades of a restaurant, scaled that at a large scale with Denny's, managed employees and all the complexity that comes with that, moved to buy his own restaurant while in parallel hustling across nearly every facet of music that you can think of, and then cartoons, and avoiding being arrested along the way. Worked at H&R Block so he can make sure his taxes were in order. Started shooting and selling taxidermy. Then from there, open up 3 coin shops and say, you know what? I'm going to start selling Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
You get that about right?
I can't stop. I just can't sit and do nothing. I tell my wife all the time, the world's full of $20 bills. You just have to know where to pick them up. It's easy. Yeah. It really is. But you have to put forth that effort. Like, I knew nothing about Pokemon cards. Nothing. Other than the names of some characters.
Well, I got a couple questions here from the chat. I'm trying to catch everybody, so thanks for your patience. Mm-hmm. Best performance you ever saw? I think this was actually a real question from Morris.
Probably Kiss. I've seen Kiss numerous times. We've got an opportunity to meet them several times. And my favorite bands is Psychedelic Furs. Me and my wife's song is one of their songs. So when we see them live, it's nice to dance to our song in person when they're playing it. And
I love it.
And, making memories like that,
Psychedelic Furs. I hadn't heard of them. I have to check them out.
Pretty in Pink. You might know that song.
I do.
That's
I do.
The song.
Okay. I do know them. Okay, never mind.
80s band.
Okay. Yep.
But Kiss, though, they're on another level. I mean, seeing them up front, and when that fire comes up, and you just feel that, it's just so much fun.
Could you all imagine Terry Lake out there head banging with his long hair?
I get my money's worth on that front row.
I love it.
Such a good time.
I love it. We got a serious question from Dan. Serious question. Does Terry use UPS padded flat rate envelopes?
Let me tell you what I do about postage, and another little trick. I buy used or new postage off of eBay at discount. You can sometimes get postage at 20% of face value. A lot of times, maybe someone dies who had a business where they use postage and they sell it for pennies on the dollar. And I buy all of my postage off of eBay. So not only do I buy it there, I get 2% because I use my debit card, So I don't use what I do. I put stamps on everything.
Credit card, you mean? Yeah.
And go to the post office every day.
All right. I don't think that answered the question, Terry.
I'm sorry.
Do you use?
Maybe I misunderstood.
Do you use the UPS padded?
I do. I'm not going to lie. I do. I absolutely do.
I squeezed it out of him, Dan. We did it. We did it. The script is going as planned. PWE to the moon. Oh Lord, Terry's spilling all the secret sauce now.
I have nothing to hide. If I can teach somebody something, I'm happy to do so. I don't have all the answers though. What the heck? Why did it take me my whole life to realize that Dan Catch 'em all collectibles? It's blowing my mind. Welcome, Crystal. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. So I'm trying to get through these, but we'll jump back in. Ponga, thanks for joining, man. I appreciate the gift, man. Much appreciated. All right. So awesome history.
And that's why I wanted to give that, in all seriousness and jokes aside, that gives a great perspective on why you have such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to business. There was a lot of detail in that, and we obviously only covered the very surface level to kind of let people know what was there. But then now let's turn the view to the business you're running today. So how is your business structured? You told me that you were still doing some metals work. You were still doing some other things. So how do you have your business structured, and what's the setup you have at the moment?
I don't really have much of a structure, to be honest with you. I've been in the metals business for over a decade, so I'm well known in where I live. I mean, people know who I am. I've done business with a lot of people. So that every once in a while I get a phone call. Hey, I got a set of silverware I want to sell. Or I got some coins, or hey, do you have some silver or gold you want to sell? So I field those calls. But like, I get up, first off, I've traded my kids for cats. My kids have been replaced with my cats. I take care
Oh, I
of
was about to say, this is going to go south really quick.
Yeah, I love my cats. They're my whole world. I feed them every day. I change their litter every day, all that stuff. My wife goes to work, so I'm home by myself. All of my kids are moved out of the house, so I'm by
Or
myself.
traded for cats.
Yeah, I get up and I watch a lot of these videos. I watch a lot of these podcasts and seeing I tell you, who I watch and get a lot of tips from is that English guy, PCTG Radio. He is a wealth of sources of what's coming new to the market.
Ross, yeah.
Yes.
The guy stays on top of things.
Chinese promos are coming. And as soon as I find out something's coming, I contact the people that I know in China or in Japan. And I said, look, these are coming on the market. Can you hook me up? And I normally get them fairly early. I go sell them on Facebook, as everybody sees. I sell stupid stuff on Facebook. But I'm not trying to run a business. I'm just trying to make a couple bucks here and there. I don't really have a structure. I got. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have some of those Chinese SVP 001s coming here in the next couple of days, so you'll be seeing me selling them. I paid $250 for them. I'm going to be selling for $7. I'll sell 100 of them. Not going to get rich off of that, but it'll occupy my time for a few days and people like getting that stuff. And a lot of times they don't want to buy on eBay from Chinese or Japanese sellers because it takes too long to get it. Right. They see this on Facebook and they say, oh man, I can get that in 2 days, and they might pay an extra $1 or $2 for that promo.
Right. Okay. And are you set up though as separate businesses? Do you have one business for Pokemon, one for anything, or you just run it?
No, I run it all together. I commingle my PayPal account's attached to my bank account, which is attached to my eBay account. I know that's really not the opportune way to do things, but it's just me. I do all the finances in the house. I just keep accurate records, and when I get those 1099Ks, it'll be easy to plug those in. Because I know how much what I've paid for everything, and but I would advise not to do that to somebody trying to run a legitimate business.
Yeah, I mean, to keep the details of the finances and make sure you're not mixing things and losing what you could use as a benefit for yourself is key. Okay, so then do you have distribution? I would say no, right?
I do not.
Right. Okay. And you primarily are selling on eBay and Facebook nowadays? That's the two? Or?
That's correct,
okay.
Yeah.
You get into Mercari or any of this other stuff?
No, I have not. I don't do anything on. I do have an Instagram account. I don't do any business on Instagram. Toying with the idea with this TikTok, with these coupons that are out there. But, you hear about the Chinese having access to your phone. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you know what? I don't need anybody having access to any of that stuff. So, and I don't need to make that extra couple dollars on TikTok. So I don't have TikTok downloaded.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Okay. So then you're focused on the two. Are you leveraging any collector's insurance for all the things that you have and the inventory?
No, most homeowners will come with $5,000. Just standard. If you want to insure your collectibles, you're going to have to pay for a rider. I mean, the odds of having a fire are very remote. I mean, it could happen. I don't have millions of dollars worth of Pokemon cards. I do have a couple nice pieces of art that I had an artist commission for me. That's a well-known artist. That's, to me, is expensive. that I didn't buy as an investment, that I bought because I wanted the art.
Right, just enjoyment.
Yeah, and it's easy to throw them out the window if I have a fire. But no, I don't carry any business insurance or anything. I did carry business insurance when I had my shops, of course.
Right, a physical location. Right,
Mhm.
right. Okay. And I'm just kind of going through a couple of these because I'm curious of how things are set up after all of those years and running all these different things. I'm wondering like where you ended up settling, right?
Yeah, I'm on the downside of my life now. I'm 58. And one thing I do get a chuckle out of people talking about, well, I'm going to buy a few cases and put this in there 10, 15 years. How many things have you personally owned that you've had for 15 years? Not many people keep things for 15 years. And for me, 15 years is going to take me to 73, which is the median age for a man to die. So my time scale is a little different than somebody your age or even somebody younger than that. And it's easier to say I'm going to tuck that away for 10 or 15 years, but a lot can happen in the interim, and I know we were talking, you're one accident or one illness away from bankruptcy, no matter how rich you are,
Right. Yeah, something bad happened and you got to dump everything you have into trying to get
Which
those
brings
things
up another
situated.
issue with liquidity, where I have an objection with
Right.
people talking about, oh, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of cases of modern. And you know what? You can sell a couple cases and maybe make $20 a booster box on them. But I can move $100,000 with a push of a button with my mutual fund. Good luck moving $100,000 worth of Pokemon cards in a matter of a week, especially new cases. It's just not going to happen.
No.
You're not going to make any money on that. I'm sorry. So to me, I get a little aggravated, and sometimes I'll make comments about people making those statements, because to me it's disingenuous, and I think it leads people to make bad decisions. But that's just how I feel. And that's why most of the time I make comments or negative comments. I normally agree with everybody, but when I have a disagreement, that's when I'll comment.
Right. And that's the thing, is like you're not commenting when you're agreeing, right? So
Yeah, and most of the time I agree. Yeah, I love the people that I
right.
watch, and a lot of people think that I have beef with Dan. It's not true at all. But what people have seen is only that stuff.
The comments that you have and the disagreements you have in that space.
I want to talk coins with Dan. I do. I want to talk coins. I don't know how in depth he is, and I want to talk with Nick about coins. And then Nick's a collector as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he got that from his dad as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's peek a little bit and just give us a sense of the volume. How many cards do you think pass through your hands in a given year? 10,000?
I've only been doing it for a couple of years.
Yeah, just like this year. I mean, how many cards have passed through your hands in terms of selling? That is,
I don't know, maybe 10,000.
okay.
And they're all low
Okay.
end promos, Unigabas.
Right. We're not talking about first edition Charizards or anything here. But
Yeah, nothing. I don't do anything with that. But I mean, I buy a lot of stuff though.
Right.
I know we talked about it before that I really didn't want to disclose anything, but I'll be shy. I'll gross under 100,000 this year, gross sales.
Okay.
Give you an idea where I'm at. So
Yep.
it's more than a hobby.
Right. I mean, you're moving decent amount. So, and that really, again, leveraging what you've learned, using that now in the Pokemon field, and obviously scaling very quickly, using your free time to learn and get
faster if I wanted to take the time to go back and learn about black and white, or if I wanted to go back and learn about the other sets. I mean, it's unlimited the amount of money you can make. You just have to find out where you source the cards. That's the toughest part, sourcing the product at a good price.
We got some good comments here as well. I'm not sure. Oh, maybe it's this comment here. So many fake stamps on eBay. You need to be careful. Yeah, that probably is true. Definitely true. Terry's on the high horse. And Dan's like, we got him. Yeah, good stuff. I love it. I'm glad you got an iFOMO. Yeah, thank Crystal for that. Definitely appreciate her donating her gift to you. So I'm glad it got there nice and safe. All right, let's keep it rolling. talk about the languages. You mentioned a few. You mentioned Chinese, Japanese, English. Are you playing with Korean? Are you going anywhere
Yeah,
else in the Pokemon
I
market?
actually buy Korean cards not to sell. I like the
Okay.
artwork of the unopened boxes. You can buy a box for $50. You know,
Yep.
I'm trying to think who it is. Crystal Collects does
Yep.
Korean. Yeah, I
Yep.
watch
That's
her.
right.
Um,
Yep.
and again, I don't buy stuff by and large to sell it. I buy because I like it. I do buy things to sell and make profit with it, and that's the bulk promos and stuff. But as for unopened boxes, I just like looking. I have them displayed in my room. You know, you come in, you got Korean boxes, you got Chinese boxes, you got Japanese boxes, you got American boxes. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. If I think it's a good price, $50 to put it on my shelf, I do it. You know,
I love
I
it.
do
Yeah.
believe there is going to be an emerging market for simplified Chinese, and you're hearing more and more
Okay.
talk about it. PK, quit talking about it. You're going to let the cat out of the bag. He's the one to talk, and he's right. He's absolutely right. That's going to be an emerging market,
You
in
think
my
that's going to be
opinion.
the next one? Okay. Yeah. And do you see that being long term, or do you think that's
I
going to be
do. I
temporary?
absolutely do. I mean, they're
Okay.
pumping them out because they're like running those sets out one after another, like in a short time span to get them all out.
Yeah.
And they're putting a nice product out. The Chinese cards are nice.
Quality looks good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
quality looks good. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't mind having the American looking back, I mean, a lot of people don't like that, but the Korean cards have the American back, and but the quality is every bit as good as the Japanese cards. They're made in Japan.
Hmm. Yeah. The manufacturing site's there, right? So, yeah, because it shares the distribution for that. Okay. So then, do you focus more in one area than another? Are you focus more in Chinese than you do English, for example?
Investing wise, I've been picking up a lot of Chinese singles, a lot of tag team
Okay.
Chinese singles. Uh, excuse me. Now you're seeing more. A lot of my contacts in China's raised the price on those things because they see, the influx of more investors coming in.
Right.
So it's a little tougher to get better prices. But the Chinese are putting out really neat boxes and different
Yeah. I like their
assortments.
collection boxes. They're nice.
Yeah, I just really think it's neat stuff. And again, I do buy certain things to sell, but by and large, if I like the way it looks, I just go buy it. You know,
Do you think English will come back to be one of the more popular dominant sets or in
I think
languages?
English will probably be always the most dominant set. I think that people picked up on the Japanese because they didn't have access to the American cards. Then I think people were weaning themselves off of the Japanese stuff. Now you can get the new booster boxes and the new sets a lot cheaper now, and they're a lot easier as well.
Right. Okay.
Dan will be the
Yeah.
one to answer that for you. I'm sure he has tons of contacts with that kind of stuff. And I mean that seriously. I don't mean it facetiously at all.
I agree. I agree. Dan says he's gonna get you on the Pokey Flips
I
podcast in the
love
new
that.
year.
I would
Yeah,
love that.
no, it'll be good stuff. I would definitely tune in for that
Dan
one.
and I are going to become best friends. We're going to
That's
be
right.
bestest buddies.
This is why I told everybody watching this that after today, you're gonna see Mr. Terry Lake as a completely different person,
Yeah.
and this is it. It's unfolding in front of your eyes. All right, here we go. Now, the next part is going to be pretty cool because I'm going to dip into how to build the business. And I'm going to go through some fictitious kind of business setup, give you some criteria, and you're going to kind of help us navigate it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here's the kind of setup. So we're starting a business in 2024. You have $5,000 to start. There's extra cash. You've already done all the proper, personal investments. This is the money for the business. You want to be in cards of some sort, sports, Pokemon, whatever, doesn't matter. And you're just going to work by yourself, single employee, and you're going to work from home. Where do you start? What's the starting point for you?
Well, I think you need to prepare for your tax season and where you're going to be at the end of that season. So instead of feeling that crunch come December, January, you need to work every month. Do something every month. So like I told you, I do a P&L every month. So I don't have,
Yep.
I collect all my receipts, all my postal receipts. I keep track of what I spend on supplies, equipment. So you're not forced to handle all of that at the end of the year. Okay. That's a start.
Okay.
So anyway, what you want to do is you want to find, and I use the phrase, fan favorite Pokemon at a good price. You need to find a source for that. What's coming onto the market and be one of the first people to get that. Unigabas was a good thing. I saw what happened to the Pikachu. I did research on that card. As soon as I found out, and I found out about those cards coming from PCTG Radio is where I found out about those cards. So when I found out about that, I made contacts in Japan. I said, hey, these are coming out. What can I get them for? I got those cards for $11 a piece initially. That's a fantastic
price. That's a good price.
And then everybody got them. Next thing you know, they're $20, and people are getting them graded. I didn't get those graded. I was in and out of them quickly. I was in and out of those cards, and on to the next thing. So what you want to do, if you have $5,000, look at what's coming out. Find a promo. I like promos. I'm not really so much into sets, but promos. There's tons of promo cards that come out. See what's coming out. Line up a source for those cards, and then sell them just a hair under what everybody else wants to sell them for. And you'll move your inventory. It's better to move that inventory and make something on it than to end up holding that inventory after everybody else has sold it and there's no demand for what you have.
Right. Exactly.
And again, this only works for me. It may not work for you, but this is how I do it.
Moving it quickly. All right. So then you turn those, you're sourcing in the best places you can to get the products coming straight off the market. Do you run all your finances in a separate bank account? Do you have a business account?
I probably
not you, not you. The advice.
Yeah, I would recommend that, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
But most people don't have the. I've handled a lot of I've done a lot of finances, so it's easy for me to do that. But for the average person, they probably should get a separate bank account. Okay. Run all your money through that. Maybe even get a credit card. If you want to incorporate, you can. You don't need to, but you can if you want to, if it makes it easier for you to do it. Whatever you feel comfortable with. A lot of people have never had a business before. They've only worked for somebody. They don't know how to do it. The best way to do it is to do it. Don't quit your full-time job, though. See, that's the key. I see people quitting white-collar jobs, okay, and doing Pokemon full-time. And you know what? That might be good if Pokemon can sustain it for a long period of time. But I've learned in my life, everything has a shelf life. Everything has an end, at least in my life. The pizza shop had an end. The bootlegging had an end. And you got to be able to go on to the next thing. I fear somebody who has I never really had a prestigious job. I was just a restaurant manager, low-level manager. I've never had a white-collar job where I'm making crazy money. And now I'm going to quit that to sell Pokemon cards. Well, that might work for 10 years, but now 10 years go by and you can't do that anymore for whatever reason, fill in the blank. Now you're 50 years old. Good luck trying to get that white-collar job back, and no one's going to want to hire you at that age. That's my fear when I see people doing that.
It's a great point because to leverage that, especially when you're younger, you're in a different situation at 58, but when you're 38, that's a completely different story. And to take yourself out of the workforce and not have a record of employment is going to be difficult. I will answer this one. So, Tennis Wolf, definitely don't touch your 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Have that there. This $5,000 we're using fictitiously is not that money. This is money that you had in addition to that. So don't touch your emergency fund. Always try to have at least that much so you can run all your bills, all your necessities. But again, back to Terry's point, you shouldn't be quitting the job anyway. So you're still actually working whatever your other job is. You still have your emergency fund. You're still maxing out 401ks, your Roths, everything else. And now you're trying to start a Pokemon business on the side. That's the story that we're running through. Sorry, Mr. Walrus, we can't run through your actual real world example of starting with $472.77.
You're going to have to pay me royalties for using my name, too. We're going to have to work out something for that. I got to get something. I got to get mine.
Bootleg it, man. Bootleg it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're there. Now, what's the defining factor for you to start the business or not? To incorporate a business or not? So when would you want to do that and why?
Well, I don't really, again, unless you're doing crazy money and unless you have a partner or unless you have a brick and mortar, there's no reason to incorporate. There really isn't any benefit because if you're only making $100,000 a year, if you form a sub S, you're going to have to take a paycheck for one. Okay. Maybe as you're getting your business off the ground, you're not profitable.
Right.
Now what are you going to do? So just do it as a sole proprietor. Just keep track of everything, and then use good software at the end of the year. H&R Block has fantastic software to do your taxes. Try to keep that. Money's tight to me. Like, I don't want to give any money to anybody. I don't want to give it to an attorney. I don't want to. You can incorporate yourself. Let's go back there. You don't need an attorney to incorporate. You go on LegalZoom.com. You can do it for $300. They'll send you the paperwork in the mail. They'll show you where to sign. They'll tell you where to advertise your business, because you have to advertise. Well, you used to have to advertise in 2 periodicals. Those are newspapers for people who don't know what periodicals are. But I don't know if that's still the law or not. That was the law in 2007. I don't know now that everything's computerized, but you don't need that. You don't need those professionals. Those professionals want to tell you how bad you need them, that you can't do what they're providing for you. When if you take a little, especially in this day and age of the computer, where you can learn about this kind of stuff, and do it yourself. Keep accurate records. Use good software, and you'll never need an accountant, in my opinion.
All right, we got a couple here that we'll take in the middle of the business building here. Put it all back 4 times, 1 6 times, then take Terry's advice and say 5 6 better.
We had
this is good stuff.
Back and forth about roulette one time. I don't know if Dan remembers that, but he was talking about, when you look at a population report and you see a whole bunch of 10s over a few 9s, that's indicative of how easy that card is to grade. And to some degree, that's true. But really all that means is we'll just make numbers up. Say the population 10s are 100 and the population 9s are 10. So it's 10 to 1, 10s to 9s. That doesn't necessarily mean if you send a random card in there that it's going to have 9 times the opportunity to grade a 10. All that means is out of the 110 cards they've graded 100 10s and 10 9s. It implies that the card's easy to grade.
Easier to grade, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Russian roulette. No, I didn't catch that one.
And I was trying to tell them that, you can't look at, every spin on a roulette wheel is an independent spin. No matter how many times black or red has come out in a row, every spin is an individual spin. Just like every card you submit is an individual card. It's only being graded on its own grade, not what other cards have graded. But it does imply that some cards are easier to grade than others.
And I guess it's only good until you get into the AI grading, and then they start to build the machine.
I think that's on the way at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, Shaib. Much appreciated. I'm glad you're liking it. It's been a fun stream. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a good conversation. I told you, Terry, this was going to be.
I'm surprised. I've actually talked about 2 hours about this. I was worried about talking about 20 minutes.
It goes a lot faster than you think it does. A lot faster. No reason for that number. I have way more than that. Seriously. Sure you do, Wars. Sure you do, buddy. All jokes aside, though, you did say that you want him to be not profitable. He's confused now. Well, it just depends. If you have the S Corp, you got to pay yourself. You don't want to be in a situation where you don't have enough to pay the minimums.
Exactly.
But
and that's a problem.
When you're actually reporting your earnings, you want to have the earnings as low as possible.
Exactly. And then if you're sole proprietor and you show a business loss, well, then that counts towards your earned income.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because that goes back to your K1 against your W2. And if you made, 50 grand, you could maybe subtract 10 from that. So now you're in maybe another bracket. All right. So let's get back to the business. We've scaled up now. We've been successful. Let's say we went with an LLC. All right. And
no, I don't have a lot of experience with LLC. I do know a few subtle differences between a sub corp. Like a sub S can only have 100 members, where LLC can have unlimited members. I'm pretty sure sub S can only have 100 members. So I don't know. I've never had an LLC, so I don't know all the.
All right, sole proprietorship. Let's just go with sole proprietorship. So we're with that, and now we're doing good. We're up to $100,000 a year.
Gross.
What changes at this point? Gross. Yeah, what changes at this point?
Cards becomes harder.
Mm.
And then moving those cards become harder. You only have a certain base that you can sell those cards to. So what that means, something you were selling 100 cards of, to make that into 100,000. Now you got to maybe move 5,000 of those cards. Is there a market for 5,000 of those cards? And if there isn't, now you got to take on a second promo you got to make money with, and a third promo. Now you're dealing in cases. And like I said, one of the best buys that I feel out there are those Pokemon Center ETBs. When they come out, they have a tendency to sell out quickly. Get in there, buy 5, 10 cases of those. You don't have to pay for them until they get ready to ship. Sell them on eBay. You can sell those things. Once they sell out on Pokemon Center, people pay $85 a piece for them. I know that for a fact because I do that. And if you don't sell them, go ahead and cancel the order a week beforehand. You have no skin in that game other than time. Right. That's one avenue of revenue. You just have to find more avenues of revenue.
Okay. So changing this strategy, probably moving into some higher dollar items, some higher quantity items, obviously. Do you get a financial advisor at that point?
If you don't understand finances, maybe I would advise. Okay. I don't think there's any difference buying something for $1, selling it for $2, than buying it for $1,000, selling it for $2,000. But you have to know what the end game is going to be. You have to have a realistic outlook of how your taxes are going to look at the end of the year. Right. And like I tell you, every time I go to Walmart or Target, I buy a pack of cards because I can claim that mileage.
Right. But are you literally getting home, writing that down that night, that day, that week?
1 second.
He's gonna break out the books here. He's gonna break out the literal books. Yeah, exactly.
Every transaction. This is just my Facebook stuff, and this is for through May. I write everything down, keep every receipt. And again, I have time to do that. Someone who works a full-time job, who's doing this on the side, may not have that kind of time. But what I submit to you, if you're paying somebody as a financial advisor, you're just taking money, giving it to him. You're working for him. You know what I mean? You're paying him when you keep that money. Just take a little bit of time. Maybe take a night class on personal finance or something. There's no shortage of self-help videos on YouTube.
For sure. For sure.
Out,
Dan's going to start his soon, so don't worry.
I'll watch
it. All right. So now we've grown even more. We're at 500,000 a year gross. We move into a physical location and we get a business partner. What changes now?
Well, now you're going to have at least a sub S or an LLC. That's a must. You can't navigate that any other way. Now you're going to have somebody that has at least the same work ethics that you do, if not better. And you have to make that your priority. One thing that I told people, what made me successful, it gets cold in the wintertime up here. It get down 2, 3, 4 degrees below zero. I get up every day when I had my shop. I went to work just in case one person might come in that day just to make that buy or make that sell. That's what separates people who can do that for a living and people who can't. Not everybody can work for themselves. They don't have the discipline to do so.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one for sure.
But that's now you have to have a partner, and now you got to trust that partner. So that's a big choice right there.
Huge choice. And don't do it with family. Don't do it with family. All right. So you've now moved to an S Corp or LLC. You're probably going to buy insurance as well, obviously. You're going to have to start looking at paying now multiple salaries. The taxes have become a little bit more complicated still.
You might want to hire ADP or somebody to do your payroll at that point.
Yeah.
Because you're busy doing other things. And at some point, if you have a business that large, you may not have the time to do your own accounting. And you might want to hire an accountant at that point. But you're far out for that, though. There's a lot of that stuff you could do for yourself.
Okay.
It's what you feel comfortable with.
I love it. This was a great navigation of the business creation and kind of seeing what steps are going through and when do you take a certain trigger action versus maybe waiting it out. So I think that was a good one.
And then if you start hiring minors, now you have a whole set of laws regarding minors, how they can work, the amount of hours they can work, consecutive hours they work, when you got to have a break. There's a whole bunch that comes into that. And, working the jobs I've had, that's how I learned about that stuff, is by doing it and being exposed to it.
They came in and break up your child concentration camp. Danny's.
I never had that. I've hired minors, and I had to navigate minimum wage being raised in Pennsylvania, and all of that, and they wanted to push socialized healthcare, make people pay for healthcare, employees pay for the employer. I had 15 employees. I had to pay my own healthcare. I can barely afford my own healthcare. How am I going to pay 15 employees healthcare? Why is that my problem? But
Dan says children are exempt from a lot of those laws. The guys, yeah.
When they're your children.
Yes, right.
Not when
you
other
have your own. Because if they make under a certain amount, they don't have to be taxed. It's actually quite interesting. But we won't go into that level of detail today. That's for another session, perhaps on the Pokeflips podcast. We'll see. All right. So looking great. I didn't catch that Thrifty was here. Thrifty, good to see you. Glad. Thanks for joining us as always. All right, we're going to do rapid fire questions now. As I said to you.
First off, let me just preface this by saying I got 2 hours of sleep normally under my belt at this time, so I don't know how rapid fire I'm going to be.
Yeah, that's all right. We're gonna have fun. I try to keep this fresh because I don't want to ask the same questions. I don't want to do it in the same format. I try to switch it up a little bit every week, and it's kind of hard. But I think I've added a nice little twist to this one. All right, so the first section is going to be rate the pokey person, not necessarily PokeTuber, because there's a couple of people I mixed in here just for fun. 1 being least, 10 being the best. And then with that rating number, give me a single word descriptor that you would like to add to that person or channel or whatever the case is. And we're going to start it off with, your dearest of heart, Catch 'em All Collectibles.
He's a 10 when it comes to business, but if you want me to, I got to call him Know It All Collectibles. Dan, it could be a little more humble.
Okay.
I love the guy, but if you want me to, I'm being honest, that's my knock on him, Dan. He's not very humble, and that's okay because he backs it up. He has the business to back it up. He didn't have to prove nothing to me, but that's my answer, though.
Well, and before we go any further, I'll say this, and I didn't say in the beginning, feel free. If we don't want to answer some of these, we can just move on. The intention is never to hurt anybody's feelings or to make anybody feel bad. It's all for just fun and laughs, but also give an interesting perspective on how people view
He's the best
different aspects of the hobby.
I mean, I started following him, and man, I loved his videos. I think he's very informative to new people. He's informative to people that's been around for a while.
Yeah. I love watching Dan. All right, the next one is going to throw you off. You weren't ready for this one. Brad G. Cards.
Oh, I don't know Brad's although he is friends on my Facebook.
Yes.
We don't post on each other's posts, but he's like my he's my cheerleader. Every time I log on, hey, Terry's here. Go get Dan. So I'd say cheerleader for Brad.
Okay. What was the number you would give him?
As a cheerleader, he's 10. He's probably the person that follows me the most. Him and Ponga, they seem to like me. There's a whole bunch of people. Beerski, Chef, all those people seem to, like, for whatever reason, taking a liking to me. I just don't quite get it.
Well, I think we all know why today. We've unveiled the story. PK, Pokemon.
I love him. I worry about him because he has I think, and again, this is just constructive criticism. That could be completely wrong. I followed PK before he had a face reveal. I love the guy. I think he can rant for 2 hours to a camera and never get tired. It's just amazing to watch him. I worry about him because I think he has aspirations of being a big PokeTuber, which I think he will be very successful with. But he has a young family, and I don't want him to miss out on that. I hope that he includes his family along with that stuff. So when he goes maybe to Charlotte or something like that, to bring his wife and kids. I know the one kid's too small, but to include his family, young for now, because he seems like he has a beautiful family.
Sounds like it as well. Yeah. So it sounds like a 10, and focus on the family, man. All right. Danny Phantom. Oh,
I love Danny. Yeah, I absolutely love Danny. I love Danny because he's so clean cut, no vulgarity, never a curse word, never a bad word about anybody. I'm not really into the charts because I'm not into singles. He seems to do a lot of things with singles, something I'm not too big into, but I watch him though.
Okay. So that would be a 10 for him. What would be the descriptor word?
Clean cut. like
Okay.
squeaky clean.
I like it. Old school Pokemon, Mr.
Oh
Nick.
man, I love him. I love his voice.
I know,
I
right?
want to talk coins with him. I want to be on his podcast someday.
Sounds like you might be
I
next
like
year.
his
It's
hustle.
coming.
You know, he has a hustle that's similar to mine. I mean, he does obviously bigger and better things, but he has no problem selling 99-cent cards.
Yep. Yep.
He
He's been
seems to
hustling
like
for
what he
years.
does. He's fun to
He's
watch.
sincerely happy.
Yeah.
Sincerely happy.
And he
Yeah.
has a
I
story
love it.
too. How many people have worked
Yeah.
on a fishing boat before?
I love it. I
You
love
know?
his story. Yeah. All right. So 10, what's a descriptor?
He's eclectic. He has a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it. TCA Gaming, Rusty.
I don't watch a lot of him. I have watched it. I like to watch his reveals of his submissions. What I like about him, he sends to everybody. He just isn't PSA. You know, send to CGC. Wealth of knowledge. Another squeaky
Huge.
clean individual.
Yeah.
No vulgarities.
Yeah. Very religious man.
Yeah, very nice, and from what I understand, very generous as well. When people came down to the thing, he had them at his house and gave cards out to everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
seems like a really nice, squared away guy. But I don't watch him a lot though. But again,
Okay.
because I'm not really into singles too much.
Okay. PokeRev, Nick.
Pass.
Don't watch it.
I
Pass.
do.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't really care for him too much.
Okay. Cool Trainer Ryan. Pass.
No, I'll make a
Pass.
comment. That's
Okay.
probably the only person I dislike in the hobby.
Okay.
And that reason,
All right.
he's very vulgar.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's I don't personally like to hear it. That's why I don't watch them. I know when PK was having his thing with Rattle and him, I watched them and I quit watching them. I even sent PK a message. He probably doesn't remember it. I said, that's probably not somebody you should align yourself with, in my opinion. I don't find but again, on his defense, I've heard he's very generous as well. So
yeah, it's a different side of him. Definitely, if you see,
but I don't watch him at all.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Retrospects, Nick.
I don't really watch.
Nick.
I've seen him on different people's podcasts.
Yeah.
Seems like a nice guy. I don't really know much about him, but I have watched him on other people's podcasts.
Okay. Then Nostalgianomics.
I'm not on either side of that cabal. I watch him. I think he has a lot of great things he talks about. I follow him. I also correct him where I think he's wrong. I'm not on either side. It appears that there's two sides of things now. I do think he can be disingenuous to think that anybody could just buy Pokemon cards and make money at it. That's just not true. That's just not true. Not everybody's cut out to make that. It's not as easy as he makes it seem. And he's somebody who's recently just quit his day job. And I wish the best for him. I like Alex. I don't have a problem with him.
Okay. What would be the descriptor word you would give there?
Portraying a victim. He seems like he wants to be a victim all the time. And I think people do attack him because there are sides that I think he sort of likes that to some degree. I could be wrong. I'm just telling you what I think.
Sure. Jim Mint, Mr. Zach.
Don't know
Jim
much
Mint
about
Pokemon.
him. I've watched a couple things.
Love the guy. Yeah.
I have no comment on him.
Okay. SM Pratt.
Well, somebody a little more closer to my age. Maybe market manipulator, a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
He's accused of that by a few people, pumping up cards, which, I don't have a problem with it. We live in a free country. If you want to buy the card, buy the card. If you don't want to buy the card, people have their own brains. I mean, it's done all the time. You look what I got, then you dump them. I don't have a problem with that practice. Some people do. We're all adults here. We can make financial, but I know he's accused by that. But yeah, he's older, not quite as old as me, I don't think. But I sort of like that older attitude. You're a little bit older compared to a lot of the people I watch too, but still, almost a half a generation younger than me.
True. All right, we'll move to Pokey Any. Brian, have you seen a new Brian?
I know who that is. I don't think I've watched much though.
Okay. Deep Pocket Monster?
No, I have not watched. I've heard that name.
Okay. Professor Oak?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah. I like Professor
Good
Oak.
guy.
Every time I sneeze, If I start doing a podcast every time I sneeze, I'll shout out to Professor Oak.
By
I
the way,
don't get
Professor
that
Oak,
joke. Man, did anybody notice how much PK sneezes? I've never
a
seen
lot,
him sneeze
a
as much as
lot.
he does.
I don't
I
know
don't know
what
if he
it
has
is.
pepper there, putting pepper in his nose.
A
But
lot.
he sneezes like every episode.
I will say, Professor Oak, if you ever watch this, I hope you're feeling better. I reached out to you recently. I know you were sick, so I hope you're up on the way up and feeling better, man. Mason, Cardinal Gaming.
I think Mason has a lot of knowledge. I don't want to say anything negative because he's a nice guy. I watch all of his content. I just
It's not about negative. It's just about whatever
I'm
you
trying
think.
to
Yeah.
learn how. I'm trying to think of how I want to put this out there. I think if he would spend a little more time, he has 2 stores. That's a big job to have 2 stores. But he's on the tube all the time, and it's like if your stores aren't doing so well, maybe you should take some time off of being a PokeTuber and spend more time in your store, because he always seems like he's having a struggle with something. I don't. It's tough in this day and age. I mean, they're making it tougher and tougher to have a local store. It's making it tougher for them, and he's going to have to learn how to adapt, and I'm sure he will.
Yeah,
because he's a smart guy.
He'll make it. He'll make it. I hope for sure. All right. Last but not least in this era is the Z&G Emporium, James.
I've never done business with them. I know PK does business with them. I follow their sales every once in a while. Don't really watch anything. Have heard nothing but good stuff about them.
Yep. Same here. Now, the next section is going to be just random questions, and try to give a short answer if you can. Okay. Mm-hmm. Best memory with your family?
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. Probably the one that comes to mind is when I first started my restaurant, we were doing those toy shows, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
And we would do okay, but unfortunately, like there's 6 of them, my wife, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had to take a toll road to get there to Pittsburgh. We have toll roads in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Then we'd have to feed the kids 3 times a day and would go to the toy show and buy toys for them while they're there. And no matter how much money we made at those toy shows, we never made a profit. And I kept telling Tiffany every year, I said, I'm going to stop doing these. She says, Terry, you're missing the point. You're making memories with those kids. And I've never forgot what she said. Those kids got great memories of that, and that's probably the nicest thing. Just seeing them getting ready and going out there, and they would, like they saw Mini Me was a guest one time. Dave Prowse, nice. Fader was out there. They got to meet these people and they got to play and they got to be kids.
I like it. Good memory. I like that one. Most exciting business moment. Exciting.
Probably when I bought my restaurant and I was actually really self-employed with a real business, not hustling.
I thought you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I, for a short period of time before the recession hit, we actually opened a second shop, and it was difficult. I couldn't clone myself. I had a partner who was every bit as dedicated as I was working, but we couldn't clone each other, and we just couldn't do it, and we just reconciled, brought it back into one shop. But it was an ego involved, I didn't graduate college. I don't have a college degree. And here I am making really good money. I have a beautiful home, beautiful family. I have everything I could possibly want. And it made me feel good about myself.
Good. I like that one. I thought you might say that based on our conversation. I think he's going to talk about the pizza shop. All right. Something you never say, but you think all the time.
See, that's a problem. Most of the time I say it when I think it like
yeah, I should have thought about that question. That was a poor question for Terry.
I'm pretty open. The only thing I'm not open about is really talking about my finances, and I'll do that on a one-to-one basis, but I don't want to put that on the internet because you never know who's watching or looking. Not that I do anything illegal. I don't. But I don't need anybody scrutinizing anything. Right. I have been audited before. I know what that feels like to go through an audit, it's not fun. And if I advise people not to really put their finances out there, on the internet.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about anything.
Okay. Well, we'll skip that one because that was probably a poor question for you. So then we'll go with biggest mistake you made this year.
Not buying enough Unigaba cards when I could have bought an unlimited amount at $11. And that's a problem that I have. New promo comes on. I know that it's going to be successful, but I don't buy enough of them. I don't, because, as you get older, so like my IRAs are in target funds that self-adjust over the course of time. As you get closer to that target date,
Right.
they self-adjust. They get a little more conservative, buy more bonds and less equities. So as I've gotten older, I can't go work for somebody anymore. So I don't want to put too much of my money at risk. So I don't go all out. But I'll tell my wife, I'll sell those cards in a week and make $400 or $500 and say, I could have bought as many of those as I wanted. Why didn't I do it? And that's a mistake. But that's something I'm not going to change. I'd rather make that mistake and then get stuck with a bunch of cards that I can't sell.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword for sure. Okay. Your most upcoming play.
I want to say that set that's coming out on Friday, but I cannot force the Japanese singles though. I think those Japanese singles cards, the Charizard, all those are going to be huge, but I cannot source them at a good price. Okay. I just can't do it. Everybody knows that's going to be huge. I don't know so much about the American cards, but they're wanting $500 or $600 for that set from Japan, and I just don't think that's a good purchase at that price. But I think that set's probably going to do really well.
I think so too over time, but I'm going to see if they print more for the holidays.
Yeah, and I'm
pretty sure they will.
Yeah. They can print it at any time.
Yep. Okay. A secret that nobody knows about you.
That I'm actually a pretty nice guy. I like to put on this that I'm tough because I'm a former Marine and I like to be tough. And I told you my dad passed away. I've been on my own since I was basically 16. So everything that I have, I've worked for. My wife has worked for. Start in one run, go to the next run, to the next run, to the next run. I'm very proud of that, and I come off as want to be tough sometimes, but I'm actually a really nice guy. I'll do anything for you. You need anything, I'll certainly do it. And I'm open.
Brad says he already knew that.
And I love my family. Everybody knows how much I love my family. My
Teddy Bear
to me. Yeah. Terra Bear. I like that moniker.
No, Teddy Bear. In this case, Teddy Bear. All right. So we got one more for this, and we'll jump into some of the final pieces. The most valuable aspect of running a business.
Probably financial knowledge. You have to know the ins and outs. You have to know the hustle. Like I said, I've been doing it all my life. So I've been selling coins at flea markets since I was 7. Not everybody knows how to buy something, how to source something for $1 and sell it for $2. I take it for granted. You probably take it for granted. Everybody does who does that for a living. But for somebody, like I watched the comments, how do I go about finding this out? You have to delve into it. You have to make it a priority. You make your business your priority. Learn every aspect you can about it. The financials are something that you don't get through through osmosis. It just doesn't pop into your brain. You just have to do it over and over. Like, when you buy car insurance for the first time, or you negotiate a lease on a house, or you buy a home, you'll learn by doing those things.
Right. Making mistakes along the way.
Experience. Learning from other people's failures and your own failures.
Which is why I made a comment in the beginning of this is take notes, everybody, because you could save yourself decades and perhaps thousands and thousands of dollars. You never know. You start bootlegging now, you're going to go to jail.
That's true. You got to get out of that business.
See, we saved you 10 years of prison right there.
Exactly.
Congratulations. All right. Now we're going to move into the personal side, and then we'll wrap it up because I know we've been running a little long, and I appreciate you all the time that you're donating with us. And again, thanks to Miss Lake for sharing your time with us as well.
She waved. She said no problem.
All right. So one of the things you also said to me in our conversation was no fun left in the hobby when it becomes all about the numbers.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit about that, and how do you keep the fun in the hobby for you? And what would you say for somebody
I think
else?
it's fun for me because I live my life with my kids, like playing Pokemon Snap with my oldest when he was a little boy. I when I first started buying Pokemon cards 2.5 years ago, I wasn't buying them thinking about selling them. I bought them because it's like I like this. I like the boxes. I like the way they look. I started buying some plushies. My kids bought me plushies. My wife does. Uh, I'm sorry, I lost track. I got on a sidetrack. What was that original question again?
No worries. So it was about keeping the fun in the hobby, not getting too focused on the numbers, right?
Yeah, well, most of the videos over the course of the last 2 years are more investment videos, and not many people buying cards to say, "Hey, look at this cool artwork." There are some people that do that. Twice Baked Jake does that. He loves the art. He talks about that. He
Yeah.
also talks about investment too. But there's so many strictly investment. Stop for a minute,
Right.
take a look around you, and enjoy what you're buying. Not everything is about money. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a business for you. It can be, but it can be both, like it is for me. I told you I buy one of everything that comes out, you know, but I also
I do
sell.
the same. Yeah, and that's the common theme, and I always joke about it, but it's also some seriousness to it, and that is, trying to find the balance between running the business and the thing that used to be a collectible for you, and you
Mhm.
used to have a hobby in it. And so many of the people running the businesses lose their collections because
Yeah,
it turns into inventory and they sell it.
yeah,
And then it becomes all about the numbers because now you have no personal attachment to any of
right.
that at all. It's just moving
And that being
inventory.
said, all the cards I bought, nothing my kids bought me or my wife, but all the cards I bought, I'd sell like that for the right price, and I'll go buy new ones. I'll make new memories. I'm not attached to
That's
any of that, so I don't want you to think that, I
right.
wouldn't sell any of that stuff. Everything
Of
has.
course, it has a price. It has a price, but finding the fun in the hobby while you're going through it, I guess, is
Yeah,
kind of
me
what
and
we were
my
pointing
wife,
out there.
we go shopping, and I don't walk real fast. I walk with a cane, and I tell her, like, on Fridays Target's putting new stuff out, she's walking ahead of me. I said, wait for me to catch up. She wants to go up there and see what the new cards are out, and she enjoys that as
I love
well,
it.
and that's
Yeah.
fun. We're making those memories together.
Yeah, my wife loves it, man. She always likes to get the card. She's, well, does this one have good hits? I'm like, sweetheart,
No, we
you
don't
have
open
to
this
open.
one though.
I said, you have to open it, and we don't know if there's gonna. Well, I only want the ones with good hits in it, so I can't help you.
Our big
You
thing we're doing
got-
right now is we're eating Happy Meals for those Disney toys. She's trying to
uh,
put those sets together, but we do that together and
okay,
stuff.
fun stuff. I
Yeah,
like it.
we're enjoying life. Our kids have all moved out, and I used to tell her, that we got to keep our marriage together because eventually our kids are going to move out, and it's just going to be me and her together. And it was sort of hard during those years when I wasn't home
Right.
to keep that together. She was the mom and dad, like I told you, she was the mom and dad of those kids, and she did everything. Took them. Imagine taking 6 kids to the dentist or to the doctor or shopping.
I have a hard time with two.
She did it. She did it all. I'm
Yeah,
so
I
lucky.
can imagine.
Lucky is
Yeah.
not even the word. I don't even deserve that.
Blessed,
I am.
blessed. Yeah, yeah, and I'll share the same thing with my wife. I talk to her sometimes, and I look at her and said, "Sweetheart, I don't know how a single parent can do it." My mom was a single parent.
Mhm.
I don't know how they could do it. I'm
I
granted
don't
we
know.
only had one child, but it's tough. It's tough. So glad you guys made it through, and you're getting to enjoy the good times
But
now.
we are.
Yeah. So now, can we talk about your dad for a little bit?
Yeah.
Is that okay? You mentioned he died, and I think that was he was either it was in 62 or he was 62
He got
when
sick
he
in
died.
82. He got sick in I was a junior.
82. Okay.
He got sick when I was a junior. Now, I was a pretty good baseball player. He was my coach and everything. And he got sick my junior year. He had developed mesothelioma, which is an asbestos lung disease, and he
Yep.
was terminal. He got sick about 6 months later. After that, he died. And my dad was, I don't know. My dad was my dad. He was everything to me. I looked up to him. He was my baseball coach. He's the one that taught me how to hunt, how to fish, how to trap,
That's
how to sell
exactly where I was
clothes.
going.
I
Yeah,
did
I was going to
everything.
see what did he instill in you, and it sounds like that's exactly what everything
Work.
you've told us about your history It
Work
sounds like
ethic.
your dad was injected in all of that.
Yeah, he worked at a mill 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and he was always doing odd jobs for somebody on Sunday. So if I wanted to hang out with him, like back in the day, we had coal furnaces. I know that's probably hard for people to believe, but you would buy coal and you would throw it into fire in your house, and that's how you heated your house. And my dad delivered coal on Sundays, and I delivered coal with him. Or he was putting a roof on somebody's house, and I would tag along with him to do that. And now all of a
At what
sudden,
age? At what age were you tagging along? Just curiously.
probably I started playing baseball at 7. He was my coach at 7. And if I wanted to see my dad, that's what I had to do because he worked 6 days a week, so 7, 8, 9 years old, doing those kind of things. And my dad was born in 24. So he grew up during the Depression. So he was very
He knew how to get through. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was not affectionate. He never told me he loved me or anything like that because his generation didn't do that. But I knew he did, because he spent time with me. And that's something that he always had time for me, something I didn't do with my kids. A regret that I have with my kids. I didn't have time for my kids. And I pay that price now. And I apologize to him all the time that I didn't spend time with him like that, But all of a sudden he's there. Now all of a sudden he's gone within 1 year. And that was difficult, very difficult.
What was the coping mechanism for you in that process?
I ran away to the Marine Corps. My mom was ill-equipped to handle. I had a sister who was 7 when my dad died. My mom didn't have a high school education. She had never worked back then. Dad's worked, mom stayed at home. I had a normal childhood until my dad died. Then, I had a brother die growing up, which was hard on my mom and my dad, I'm sure. So my mom had a rough life. Now he died in 82. She was born in 36. So she was like 40 some years old. Now she's left by herself and she has a 7-year-old child and I was 16. So I didn't have any options. So I ran away. I ran away to the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Which was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. And I think that would really help during that tough time. I mean, it gave you the structure and the routine and of course applying what your dad had instilled in you to make it through this difficult time. And I'm glad you brought up the time with the kids and the family, because that's actually where we're going to go next. And this balance of business and family, looking at this now, and you mentioned you kind of, in a sense, apologize and feel some sense of regret. What would you do differently if you were trying to run these businesses?
I would set my ego aside and not work so many hours and not worry about money. But there's another side to that, though. Working all those hours paid our debt off, and I never planned on getting injured and having these medical problems, because if you didn't do all of that and you spent time with your kids, now we're in a financial situation. Right. I mean, there's no answer to it, and you only get one
balance.
You don't get a chance to redo it, So now I have adult relationships with all of my children, and that's sort of weird, like my oldest. And here's this little boy I playing Pokemon Snap with telling me how to fix my computer. It's just really neat to have those adult relationships. You're going to get to experience that sometime. It's really it's a different dynamic, but I love it. I love
my mom. Yeah.
Anything.
Okay. And would you do it the same way? Would you work a little bit less?
I think that was the right way to do it. I do. My 2 oldest really never saw much of me, because that was the peak years. But number 4, 5, and 6, they were young when I sold the pizza shop off and started doing the coin thing, and I was able to spend more time at home. And there's no answer to that. I mean, you get one shot at it, and there's benefits one way and detriments the other way. I don't know if there is a happy medium. I'll be honest.
Lots of love there. Much love, Terry.
Thank you.
Dad would be proud.
Thank you. I think so.
Pong goes well. Terry's my favorite person in the world. Guy's awesome. Love it. All right. One last one here, and then we'll bring it to a close. You said one more phrase to me that I wrote down and kind of stuck out. And you said, do right by people. So what does that phrase mean to you? And you gave me an example in our conversation, but share with us what that phrase means to you and how do you receive it, but also give it.
There's a saying that be careful who you step on the way up, because those are the same people you're going to step on the way down. So when I go to sleep at night, I feel good about who I am. I don't need to demonstrate that to people. We have, as of late, we have an influx of illegal aliens from the South up here in the Pittsburgh area. Now, those people want to live the American dream. Okay. They're leaving, I'm going to use a bad word, their shithole country to come to America because we're the beacon of freedom and liberty, and they want to live that life. But our government has made it so hard to hire those people now that they can't get hired. So now they're up here and they don't have any support and they have no way to earn money. Anytime we see those people, we give them money. That might not be a good thing to do, but you know what? That's what humans do for people. You know, you take care of people. I feel good about who I am and what I do. I do that for me. I don't do that for any other person. I don't, you know, I had a partner who was big about showing people how much of a Christian he is. Being a Christian isn't about that, man. It's about doing the right thing, you know, and that's why I'm on here. I have some financial knowledge that I know people can use that they don't have, and I'm willing to give it to them, not charge them $9.99 a month. That's a dig. Not really, but you know what I mean.
Just a little bit.
If someone wants to hear that, I'll give that to them. I've lived most of my life. I'm not running the rat race anymore, you know. And that's why when you contacted me, it's like, you want to be on. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Who the hell would want to see that? But I thought it went pretty well. I mean, reading the comments, I think I actually helped some people. Maybe I'm wrong.
As I said, that you are underestimating the value that you have. And that's what I hope we were able to uncover here today. Dan says, just make it $10 flat.
$9.99, Dan.
It's a mental thing, man. You got to have that 99 cents. Man.
That's exactly
people will buy it. People will buy it more. Sorry, Dennis. I'm not sure what you mean there, sir. So shake my head. Skip number 3. Not sure that I follow. Apologize.
With that.
So we'll move it into the last piece here, and you know what's coming. So we have 2 questions for you, sir. The first one here is going to be, what advice would you give somebody in their early career that's starting out with a family in order to maximize outcomes, both to treasure the time with their family, but also to build that career? What would that advice be?
Listen to anybody who's willing to give you advice. Somebody who's done what you've done. Like, I go back to that person at the gold mine that taught me about investing. I don't know where I would be if that man didn't take the time to teach me about investing in mutual funds. I don't know if I ever would have been exposed to that. Right. You know, so that's why I'm here today to tell people from my experience. I've done a lot of things. I'm like a real life Forrest Gump. You know, I've done so many things, you know, some successful, some not as much, you know, but don't
all learning.
Yeah, we're all learning. I'm still learning at 58. You know, I'm learning about a Pokemon. I'm learning to navigate a Pokemon market. But please, you folks have young kids, man. Make them part of your business. Like, I would take my kids to my restaurant. So we would go out there. I live about an hour away from where my restaurant was. Daddy, can I go to work with you today? No, mind you, it's an hour out there, an hour back, and my work day's 12 hours long. They would come out there all day long to sit in my office. All day long to spend time with me. They would eat chicken tenders all night long, all day, all night, French fries. And then we actually had custom pops made. So all of our kids, me and my partner's kids, had their own pop, their own brand of pop. So they would drink their pops all day long. You know,
oh, Lord.
And
this is good stuff.
That's how they spend time. Try to make them part of your business when they're old enough. You know, maybe teach them to sort cards with you. Teach them about your business. Teach them how to take $1 and turn it into 2 and make it fun for them. You know, I don't know if that's good advice or not.
I like it. I like it a lot. And Mr. Walrus says, my kids crease my Van Goghs for PSA one place. I love it. I love it. All right. Last one. You know what's coming. I hope you thought about it. So one day we're all going to leave the hobby, Terry. What legacy do you want to leave in the hobby?
I want people to think that I was a real dude. That what you saw is what you got with me. That I was a good guy. I want to be generous. I want to be generous for people. And I hope that I can teach somebody something like somebody did for me.
I love it.
Somebody might be listening, they're thinking about starting a business and say, you know what, give me a call, send me a message. You can call me over the phone. You can talk to me anytime. I have nothing but time on my hands. If you want to hear it, I'll give it to you, and take it for what I will give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I will give it.
And speaking of that, I didn't do it before, so I'll catch up with you after, Terry. I'll put your whatever information you want to share in terms of contacting you in the description. So if you're watching this, give me a few minutes after the video gets processed.
And I mean that when
Terry's information.
I sincerely mean, you can contact me. You can call me on the phone. I mean, just don't call me out of the blue. Send me a message. Hey, you got time to talk today? And of course I will. I'll make time for you. If you really want to hear it, I don't want time wasters though. If you're there just to kick tires, and I don't want that. I don't have time for that. But if you sincerely want to learn, and I'm not the only person that's willing to do this. There's other people willing to do that too, I'm sure.
Yep. Yep. We all are want to get back to the community. It's a great way to do it. Helping people, really. That's why we talk about all the time here is making somebody else smile.
Yeah.
People having hard days, they're having a tough time. I mean, just give somebody a smile, and you never know what that's going to do for them. And that could change their entire day. That could save their life.
Yep.
You never know.
It absolutely could. I told my wife, it takes billions of things for us to end up where we are right this second. What I mean, you know what a Plinko board is? Plinko, you drop a little thing and it goes, just goes randomly, then it ends up where we are right now. So billions of things have had to happen. Like my grandfather had to be late for work one day, so he met my all crazy stuff. But it's just crazy that so much has to happen to be where we are right here. And let's just take advantage of it. Let's share that information.
Exactly.
There's so many knowledgeable people in the community. Share that information freely. And I don't mean that like about the paywall, but I mean, just treat people the way you want to be treated. You might have something this advice you can trade for somebody else's advice,
Exactly. Sharing the knowledge.
Yep.
And here we are at the end, Terry. It has been a true pleasure, sir. We made it almost 3 hours.
I can't believe that. That's crazy. We talked about Pokemon too, because I have very little knowledge about Pokemon.
We talked about it. We did in and out.
But I hope people enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading the comments. I really appreciate the nice words people said about me. And I have thought about making a channel if anybody's interested in watching that. It won't be a whole lot of Pokemon content, but it might be just common day things you come in. How to negotiate a lease, or how to buy a car, how to haggle a car. To get a better interest rate, how to have people not shop your credit report, to 5 different people when you're buying a car, things like that, just stuff you learn over the course of your life.
I think you would be quite successful if you ever wanted to do that, Terry. You'd be surprised how many people would love to hear what you have to say.
Keep an eye out for it. It might just happen.
Everybody, thank you so much as well for your time. Deeply appreciated. Lots of great engagement today. I couldn't keep up with the chat. Thanks so much for everybody who became a member as well and sharing and gifting memberships. It truly means a lot. Blew me away. We all had a blast here today. We wish everybody an amazing one. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Rants, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.